drizzled. It didn't rain hard, so it wasn't too bad.
Percentage-wise, yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm up in the hills. It's like, you can't tell.
Okay,
And you
thank you.
can't see anything.
Just let me know when we're live.
It's your show for a while here.
Dana, you did it already?
Well, my last one.
Not, I'll pass it back.
Okay, we're live.
Okay, thank you.
I have 2 more minutes.
I got back there, we have Diet Coke and Sprite, if you want those. There's no
If I
water.
really need it.
This one's been sitting here since the last meeting unopened.
Do you know?
No, it's warm. You're welcome.
The time is 5 o'clock and we'll call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda. I would like to make the motion that we approve the agenda as presented, except separating out the minutes for June 7th and June 22nd into their own item.
I have an amendment that I was hoping to add as well, or at least a question to raise.
Okay.
Do I do that now?
Yes.
Okay. I just question the validity of our public hearing on the budget with the clerical error that's on the agenda of Wednesday, July 10th. I did email Krista, but I know she's out of town, so I don't think it was caught. It's on the website that way, so there's no
Just make sure it's,
people here.
yeah,
So,
should be changed to Monday,
Right.
July 10th.
so the motion then will be to approve the agenda as presented with the approval of the minutes for June 7th and June 22nd being separated into their own items, and then Wednesday being changed to Monday.
Right.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining
Okay.
because I'm just not sure how this affects us having the public hearing on the agenda if the public was misled as to when it was. Thank you.
So Madison abstained, and I have 4 yeas. Okay, please rise for the pledge. George, will you please lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the minutes for June 7th, 2023, the business meeting. Are there any questions or comments regarding that?
Question. Where are we on the agenda?
We're under the approval of the minutes on number 4.
For June 7th.
And we're not doing the,
We split it into two.
We split it. We'll
The
talk-
public hearing comes after.
Yes.
It's the 5th item. So we're on the approval of the minutes for June 7th, 2023, the business meeting. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I motion that we approve the minutes for the June 7th, 2023 board meeting.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's a 5-0 carry. Next will be the minutes for the June 22nd, 2023 special meeting. I have a couple corrections that I would like notated. On item D for the purchase over 100,000 for Riddle Painting. There are two items. One, the item that says due to PTO being unable to fulfill a prior commitment to paint the preschool, we are adding that the job to the scope of the work. I just want the part about due to PTO being unable to fulfill a prior commitment to paint the preschool stricken. That has not been verified, and I believe it was a non-meeting of the minds, and it wasn't part of the meeting on the 22nd, so I would like that taken out. And then also in that same section, one of the items just says MR asked if any of the money has been spent. That actually was Madison Reed, so I would like that also clarified, because being an R myself, it could be Mrs. Reed, could be Madison Reed, so I think that needs to be clarified. Those are my two changes. Does anyone else have changes?
I have one.
Okay.
Mine is under action items, under the superintendent performance-based compensation pay. It says Ms. Reed thinks the bonus should not be awarded to him. I felt like that was a little oversimplified. Since I simply questioned if this was the right time, I don't feel that he's undeserving.
Okay, so what item, what page?
It was on page 18, under action items A. It's like the second page of those notes.
So page
Yes, under section A.
18.
And I will send an email to Krista, I just.
Sure, I'm just notating it since she's not here. I want to make sure that the minutes are reflected properly as well. So, Ms. Reed. Okay, thank you. We'll make sure that that gets changed. Libby, you had one too?
Yes, I have two, actually. On page 20, under item number 7, dates of upcoming meetings, it should be reflected to Monday, July 10th.
Right. This Monday threw everyone for a loop. Right, page 20.
And I'm sorry, that was the only correction. You had all my other ones.
Okay. And I'll just point out that on the website, it actually doesn't list a day, it only lists the date. So it says.
I just mean when they open it and it says Wednesday,
I
all
get
it takes is someone saying Wednesday to be like, oh yeah, it's on Wednesday
I
this
get
week.
it, but on the website, it does say July 10th, so. Okay, so then I will motion that the minutes be approved with the changes, with PTO being stricken, MR being changed to Madison Reed, Mrs. Reed's comment being adjusted, and that the date should reflect Monday, not Wednesday. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So that's 5-0. Okay. Next up is the public hearing. The board will vote to suspend the regular meeting to conduct a public hearing on the budget for 23-24. I move that we suspend our regular meeting to hear the hearing.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It's all you, Tyler.
Good evening, President Reed and members of the board, Dr. J. Tonight I'm presenting the adopted budget, and just to address management's comment, on the website I think there is a grammatical error, but on the actual hearing notification it doesn't ask for a physical date in terms of like spelling out Wednesday or Monday.
I understand we have a reason, but
Yeah.
that doesn't sell to the community when they're not here and it's a public hearing. So,
Yeah, just, I wanted to point that out.
Thank
that the district is in compliance with the statute in terms of the posting and having that hearing notification, so. Moving forward, this adopted budget will look much similar to what I presented earlier with the proposed, with the exception of later in the presentation, the stricken of the adjacent ways levy. So just covering again the K-12 budget highlights, the aggregate expenditure limit. We've been going through this for a couple years now. The legislature did exempt that for 24. That was Bill SCR 1041S. But however, that will be coming back again in 25. So typically that's been in the neighborhood of 15 to 20% of your budget, where there's a statute that says that you cannot spend over that limit. So that may be coming into play for the school district. as well as all districts next fiscal year. The final legislative changes in terms of the budget, 4 bullet points here. There's an inflation increase of 2%. This is the minimum obligation that the legislature has to basically award, or not award, but put into place if realized inflation is over 2%. And honestly, they don't even have to do that, but this is typically a good faith gesture to help districts move forward and meet the gap of realized inflation. And so we saw realized inflation around 7 to 8%. This increase of 2% still puts districts behind the ball in terms of actually paying for costs for supplies and services, but we'll take it. So that 2% equates to Fountain Hills of $152,912. Number 2, the legislative shifted the results-based funding to the base level support. So results-based funding was paid out on, it used to be AZ Merit, now I think it's AZ Sci test results. And typically high achieving districts got a substantial amount of money for this and was paid out in a separate bucket. That bucket is now being collapsed and put into the base support, so this is now just part of the budget formula. That equates to about 0.9% increase for all districts. And so for Fountain Hills, that's a $70,000 increase. That's an ongoing increase with that legislative change. What that does, though, is removes any of that previous one-time funding for results-based funding. So those test results are now not, I guess, incentivized by this funding source. Third, we have the $20 million towards district additional assistance. Legislature appropriated $20 million statewide towards DAA, which is your capital budget. For Fountain Hills, that equated to $44,000, and that's ongoing funding for Fountain Hills. Fourth, the one-time state aid supplement. Governor Hobbs and the legislature basically had some extra money, and so they appropriated a one-time state aid supplement. That estimate for Fountain Hills is $337,000. Again, that is one-time money. It can be appropriated both either to M&O or to capital. And I think later in the slide, I'll talk how Fountain Hills is going to utilize that. So looking at the adopted budget for maintenance and operations, and again, the school districts have 2 main buckets: maintenance and operations and capital, that are formula controlled and are adopted during this cycle. So Fountain Hills adopted budget for 2024 is just over $11 million. Working with Dr. J, we're projecting a flat ADM. As most of you know, school districts are now required to budget on current year funding, and so what that means is school districts are, unless you're seeing rapid growth or rapid decline, most school districts budget flat and then revise to actual ADM numbers as the school year goes on. This one eliminates any towards a budget either surplus or deficiencies as you start the year, and 2 is a very basically conservative way of budgeting, and we felt that was appropriate for Fountain Hills going into 24. As I noted previously, the inflation of 2% to the base level support is included in this number, as well as the shift of results-based funding to the base level support. And then the 4th bullet point, we're estimating a budget balance carry forward. So that's this current fiscal year. That's budget capacity that was not utilized going into next year of $545,000, which is just under 5%. The general rule of thumb, where I see most districts, is between 4 to 8% to have a conservative contingency for things like sewer breakage. If you have rapid enrollment growth, you can have that capacity to hire without doing a budget revision in the current school year. So Fountain Hills is within that measure, and so I feel very confident with that amount rolling into fiscal 24.
Howard, can you interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
Does that differ from the reserve fund that we talked about with that Dr. Allen had set up? Like, what's the difference?
Well, there was reserve capital, and then there was reserve CTE, but this is M&O, so this would be something separate than what we discussed in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't have any history on that conversation.
Just the consolidation budget is coming
okay,
from
yeah.
reserves, from capital, but this is how we pay our employees, so that's why it's not as high of a number.
So, Ms. Reed, that's the next budget bucket here, which is our district additional assistance. So that's our capital bucket. And so for Fountain Hills for 24, that budget limit is 3.6 million. Again, projecting the same flat enrollment. This does take into consideration the inflation increase. And 2, 3, the donated to date, football field, that 427,000 basically, of public funds that were donated to the district. So that saved the district $427,000 in capital to help replace your football field this year. And I think that number is even out of date as to this because we continue to receive donations. So, so that fourth bullet point, the capital estimated budget balance carry forward for 23, that's 2.8. So in that 2.8, we did set aside that 2.5 for consolidation. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but that's a separate bucket in which there's a different amount of contingency set aside. Just for context, too, the district annually receives about $600,000 in capital based on the formula. So what you're seeing here, the 3.6 is relatively high. But again, a lot of that's coming from that budget balance carry forward. And as the board is aware, a lot of that is being proposed to be used towards the consolidation plan.
I think Libby has a question.
Yeah.
So we've talked about two reserves, a reserve capital and a reserve CTE, you mentioned, and then we have our balance carry forward. Is there an accurate number that the district has, I'm sure, and you probably don't have it tonight, but a number that the district has in, say, savings that we have in our carry forward, and what is that number?
Well, for capital, I believe it's 1.1 million is where we're at. The CTE funding, just to be clarified, I've had conversations with different people, so I want to be clear. That was when we closed the EVIT program down. Dr. Allen had put money aside for if we ever had to reopen the program. Some of that money was spent over the last 2 years prior to my arrival, but there is still some in that reserve in case we ever had to bring a program back. There's some money in there for that. As far as the M&O, you're showing 5.
Yeah, and so I mean, to answer that, Ms. Settle, the real contingency is really these two buckets. The district may have other cash control funds, such as tax credit and stuff. A lot of those are already obligated to those student clubs. And so when you're talking reserves that are like readily available to district for basically unrestricted use, you're looking at these two buckets here. These are your main two buckets. The rest of your funds have several different restrictions based on statute and based on use, allowable use. So it's not an apples to apples comparison. We want to take all the funds in the district and try to accumulate some sort of number to come up with a contingency. So I would utilize these two numbers here as your kind of all-in contingency.
The reserve is the 2.8 million. There's no, like, the balance forward is the Rob Allen carry forward.
Yeah, it's like a budgeted amount to carry forward.
That was the money that he kept kind of tucked back into capital, that, he tried to keep his savings, so he was careful with his spending. So there's no other reserve besides that 2.8 million.
And again, it's not truly reserve as
Right.
The next slide has kind of goes in consolidation of what some of that's going to be used for. So Kane did mention like a 1.1. I mean, we can come up, I can give you guys a more accurate number, and that would take into consideration the consolidation that we have currently planned, as well as next year's fiscal 24 numbers with salaries, benefits, and all those things taken into consideration. So.
Does that answer your question?
That would be, yes,
Okay.
please.
Moving forward, the kind of consolidation budget I kind of alluded to. This is slightly updated from the proposed. The two main updates are the playground modifications and the fencing. We're slowly working with Alicia on getting the expenditures as we're closing out the fiscal year and moving into next year. So those will be updated in our next presentation.
And can I just add?
Yeah.
The Orca Winslow price is going to come down considerably because that was for an all-in $2.5 million renovation, and all we are really doing with them is the library, so that percentage is gonna come way down. Yeah.
Does the playground modifications include the Lou Interactive amount that we're
No,
looking at?
that's through Day Bang for the ones that we have.
Okay, so
ones
this
that
is
we
just for the physical playgrounds.
These are,
Outdoor.
and these are the ones that we were able to order as of right now, and as I mentioned, there's still some work to be done on that, but those are the ones that we have approved for. That's for 4 pieces of equipment in 3 different areas, 2 different schools.
What figures was this budget made from? Is this based, like, because normally a budget, you put an amount you expect to set apart for that, and then in the expenditure, you put the actual amount. So if we're not accounting for the things that we're trying to fit in there, where did these numbers come from? Are these just actual numbers that have already been bid?
Yes, these are encumbrances, basically.
Yeah. So there's a tentative budget plan, but those numbers are ever fluctuating in terms of.
So we don't have an overall umbrella budget like this is?
We
I mean,
do.
Dr. J does, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we've been keeping track of that. It's just, there's a few unknowns. The main one is the library. That, and we'll have pricing. We're supposed to get it by the end of the month and bring it to the August 2nd meeting is when we'll be doing that. So that's that's the only one that's really out there that we don't know. And so we've had to revise and cut things out that we wanted to do that we just aren't going to be able to do at this time, and do those in, the following year or the following year after that.
Yeah, as pricing's come in, this has been fluctuated, and so that's why you see some of the numbers change. But yeah, there's not like, I get what you're saying, like a budget, like 750,000 for.
Yeah, so we didn't
yeah.
go in saying, okay, we're not gonna spend more than this much on playgrounds. We kind of
We-
said, we're gonna just see where we fall.
Well, what we did is we looked at the safety of the kids and the number of kids that are gonna be out there and the needs of the district, and then based on that, then we looked at what equipment was available, and we landed on that. But that was one of our starting points. That was one, to priority over everything, is we have to have the playgrounds the way they are, and we have to have them in a safe location. So that took priority, and then anything that had to be done, as you can see up there. So if we have to scale back something, we can scale it back, but we prioritize based on what's the most important for us to meet the needs of the kids, and then also to hopefully grow enrollment, which was the whole purpose of it in the first place.
So I have a couple of questions. Does this include the encumbered amounts?
This is all encumbered. The budget numbers are all board-approved numbers, so.
The consolidation, the budget initiatives for the consolidation plan, those include encumbrances?
So that's that's your blanket authorization, like.
Right,
Dr.
so then I would expect that we would have seen our painting at the 100,000, correct? If we're looking at encumbrances also?
And I think the marquee should be significantly higher, because we just approved the marquee, or it got approved.
Yeah, I mean, this is a moving target, as every board meeting, there's more things approved.
So at
yeah.
what point was this specific?
When were these numbers picked up?
Probably 2 weeks ago, like a week ago. So, like I said, the only thing changed from the proposed was the playgrounds and the fencing. I think I alluded to that when I first started. But, so yeah, those other items are still being added, and I know Dr. J has a running list as well. But by the time I had turned this presentation in, and the board dates changed, and so that's all I got on there. So, this is continuing to be evolved, and it's an active list. So, I think Dr. J we can update these numbers and provide them to the board.
Yeah, and like I said, we've already had to make some cuts. Like, we're not going to be able to get the 4th and 5th grade team room done at all. Like, that's unfortunately not gonna happen this year, or at least we might be able to get some of it done and work towards it, but we've had to make some priority shifts. But I also firmly believe that if we're gonna do something, we should do it to the best of our ability, and that's how I do things. And so I wanna make sure that the growth of this district, the future of this district is in our young children in this town. And that elementary school, to me, is the priority. It is the key to, growing the district, saving this, however we want to put it. I firmly believe that is the key to it. So a lot of our priorities have gone there. But we continue to meet frequently, and Alicia and I go over every expenditure, and I update my spreadsheet, she updates hers, and so, but like Tyler said, there's things that are constantly coming in and moving, and we've had I mean, I can't even tell you how many projects we've dealt with in the last 4 months. So a lot of it's just we're moving as fast as we can to be ready for August 3rd, but everything's accounted for, and he is keeping me to the budget he's given me, so.
And at the beginning, Kane, you said that you estimated 2.5 out of the capital for the consolidation. So that 1.3 still leaves 1.2 million that will eventually become encumbered.
Yes,
This is 2.5 total.
yeah, so
That's
there'll be
2.5.
1.2
Oh, that's-
left, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but
sorry.
a total, yeah, and then the 1.3 is unallocated right now.
Yeah.
But it needs to be added, those things like you mentioned, the marquees, and some of the other things that have been approved, and that have been moved forward, so.
And
the
I
big-
think that's all that I would ask for is that, I mean, those were some pretty large expenditures that I would have expected. They were approved on the 22nd board meeting, at
Yes.
least. So I would have thought that they would have shown here, which is the question. And then my next question is, can we have a copy of this presentation?
And it's public, so it's,
Yeah, but
But
if you
sent
could
to our
send them,
email,
yeah,
please.
can you
Yeah.
send the presentation to Krista so she can forward it to us?
certainly.
Thank you.
And then, like Dr. McKay mentioned, we do have a contractor procured, and we're just waiting for pricing back. And again, that will be brought back to the board when that pricing is finalized, so.
And the contractor will be doing what?
The media center, the library,
Okay.
yeah. That's, to my knowledge, that's what we've landed on because of the budget constraints, so. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, the adjacent ways, the board decided that this was not a direction they wanted to go, so that has been stricken. Moving forward, the average teacher salary, this is a requirement to be listed in the budget. And so Fountain Hills made some good strides over the last year with some of the increases they provided. This table is pulled directly from the budget forms, and it shows the increase over fiscal 23 to fiscal 24. That increase in percentage was 3%, or for every teacher, just over $1,400. So the calculation does not include supplemental pay, so if any teacher does do any extra duty, that is on top of this, so.
Tanner, where do we stand with our adjacent districts?
Yeah, so average teacher's salary has gone up drastically, and so Fountain Hills has, talked to Dr. Shea about this, has lagged behind. I know it's an initiative of his. The average, I think, for teachers is around 64, 65. It's different than starting pay, so I want to be very clear. This is your average, taking all your experienced teachers and putting them into a kind of one bucket, dividing by the number of teachers there. So still behind, but it's also a point to note that experienced teachers are leaving the profession. So those high paying teachers that are paid high are leaving the profession. So that's bringing this average down. I've seen that in multiple districts. There's a lack of teachers that are still working in the profession, and so it's not only statewide, it's nationally. And so this number is going to fluctuate as long as that's still a factor.
But that's true at all districts, not just ours.
Yeah, every district is suffering through that. So.
From what I went out and did a quick study, we're about $7,500 less than our competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we got some work to do here, but it comes with student enrollment. It comes with a number of different things where you can move this needle forward. And so I know that's an initiative, Dr. J, and so we'll see what we can do fiscal 24 and what increases we can make going into next year. So. All right, just in summary, so it's a lot of the one-time funding is going to be set aside for M&O contingency. Like I mentioned, you guys are on the kind of the lower end of the 4 to 8% scale that I generally use for contingency numbers. So providing that one-time funding and setting aside for contingency puts you on the little more conservative approach. It provides that extra funding for any unforeseen circumstances going into next year. Finalizing the consolidation projects, a lot of those are underway and will be kind of moving faster as we procure a contractor, and some of those things are finalized. So that also includes the high school football field. I know I got a call Friday morning. They were already trying to get on site, and so that is moving forward as well. So exciting times. And then the last bullet point, the continuous shift budget into classroom instructional spending. So this goes hand in hand with Mr. Starr with your initiative, kind of to put money back into the classroom, into your teachers. And so that takes time. Reprioritizing a budget, you can't flip a switch. And so that initiative will take place, I know, over this next year. And so recommendations going into the following year will reflect some of those.
And the percentage that we're putting into contingency is like a reserve if you're in an HOA, right? And with the Four Peaks site that we're still responsible for, that could, it's great to be able to move it into M&O, but you're taking it out of something that we could actually need. So it's important that we work on that Four Peaks site as well as in the other areas that we are trying to eliminate the costs of for use. So, but I don't want to make it sound like we had this extra pot of money out there in capital that we moved it, because it's very possible that we could exceed that if things really go upside down at Fort Peaks.
Yeah, it can flip very quick. So.
For those of us that are new, what would happen if we exceed that?
We find another job.
Exceed the budget capacity?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a good thing.
You could potentially go into receivership
Yep.
by the state. There's a number of different things that can happen. Obviously, first repayment, but yeah, there's a receivership. You can be fined by the other general.
It's not.
It's not a
happened.
place we want to be.
No,
But-
I've been involved in
We don't know these things, so.
a very west side district that ended up, the richest district in the state, ended up in receivership. So if you don't do it right, this can happen.
I have some questions. Do we have some specific plans on how we're going to continue to shift the budget into classroom instructional spending? Like some specifics as far as the plans to do that?
Well, we need more kids. That'll help a lot. I've said that, we're in a kind of a weird time right now. I mean, we've had some growth, but we also don't have excessive growth. We are consolidating. We're doing everything we can to attract families. Once we see where we land, I think this coming year, we may have to make some decisions on positions. We did cut quite a few positions this past year. And then some of them we had to bring back because of, we have a very large senior class this year, 140 kids. And we don't know where kindergarten's going to land yet, so we'll see where that comes in. We took, so for a lot of the positions that we cut, we still are, we have more that we cut than we brought back. We were able to get all of our counselors paid for out of a grant, so that saved us a lot of money. That's 3 full positions right there. So I think the best way to do that is, one, we have to find a class size that teachers feel comfortable with, but also, kind of meets the needs of our families and what they expect from us. And then we need to continue to grow each grade level and be and look at each position, especially administrative positions that we have. One thing that's, I think, a lot of times, coming from a large district and a large school back to a small district and a small school, the job's not that much different. I'm going to be real honest. I mean, being principal at Arcadia and being principal here is not a lot of difference. I mean, the difference is there's more kids, there's more issues that pop up that you have to address, and you have some more staffing for it, but you still have the same roles and the same job duties that you have to get done regardless of your size. So when you look at our district size, I mean, really our cabinet team is 4 people total. And, we're doing everything we can to cut costs at the administrative level. So if people leave, we're always going to go through that and see if it's something we want to go through attrition and just eliminate the position. But we weren't at a point where we wanted to, after the first year, start, cutting people's positions, because there was just a lot of unknowns for this next year. And I want to make sure that we can meet the needs of our kids and then make more decisions as we go and continue to cut through attrition, which we did this year.
I mean, the specific, when 70-80% of your budget is salaries and benefits, the specifics are evaluating positions.
Okay. And then going into things like not being able to get the 4th and 5th grade team rooms done, and a comment that you made saying that the current budget rate is behind in paying for costs and services. I have a little bit of a hard time accepting that when we're looking at something like Blue Interactive, where I feel like maybe that money could be reserved and used for some of these other things, like getting the team rooms done.
Yeah, but that's
I think
paid-
there
that's-
are priorities there.
Sure, that's paid out of a grant, though.
Okay,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Okay.
So that was a cost that we paid for out of a grant. Or we will pay for out of a grant. Yeah, it's grant funded.
Okay. Because I think that there are maybe some of those kinds of things that we could look at maybe scaling back, because I think priorities would be things like getting the team rooms done.
Well,
over-
but remember, the team rooms are not ready, they're just not wow factored, okay? And so whether we put it into playgrounds, we put it into there, we want to make sure we do it right. So if that room is just going to serve as, you know, a collaborative space for team meetings and the co-teaching model we're doing, we can put furniture in there, we can make it really nice, it just may not have the themed wow factor we were going for right now. We do have benefactors, I do have one right now that's donating $100,000 just for that purpose only. It has to be a wow factor, it has to be something the district would never buy. We have people that have stepped up and, you know, and I hope, I mean, if the last numbers I had, we had about 900,000 in donations come in this year. So my hope is we can continue that. We may not get all that back because the football field was a big part of that, but we have some donors who are really committed to helping the district get where they need to be. And so my hope is to work with them to continue to build towards that. But yeah, I don't want it to come across that those rooms are ready today. We could have class in there right now. It just may not have the themed, you know, ocean, marine biology theme we were going for right now, but we can still do some of that. We just may not be able to do it all right away, that's all.
As far as the continuing to shift the budget into the classrooms, that's something that I would encourage us to maybe look at developing some of those like SMART goals that are very specific on
Yeah,
how we can really,
Sure.
because I know that is something that we,
But I want to clarify on this, though. When we talk about shifting into that, we can't use this capital money to pay salaries. So when we talk about, you know, these playgrounds and wow factors and those things, that money should be going to this. It is going to the teachers in a roundabout way. It's going to make their experience teaching better. It's there to enhance the learning of kids and giving the families more opportunities that they may not get at another school, which as a former teacher, that means a lot to me. When I have an outdoor classroom and I have wonderful play places and things like that, that makes my life better and makes it more likely I'm going to return as a teacher there is what we were going for there. But we can't, like Tyler said, I mean, the only way to add more money to the classroom is to either A, get more kids, or B, cut positions. And so the only positions we have left to cut right now would be to cut more administrative positions. But then at the same time, when you do that, then you run into, are we giving a good product? Because now we have a principal by themselves trying to do everything at one time, and they don't have that support to build a beautiful culture and climate of the campus and have strong PBIS and those types of things. So it's a very delicate balance of finding, you know, how do you build a strong campus and a strong community with the limited budget that we have, and there's not a lot of room there. So we could maybe cut one position, and that might give, you know, teachers a couple $100, but it's not going to be a massive thing. The only thing that's going to be massive is we get more kids in the door.
okay, I understand that. It was on the slide and it's a very nice thing to say, but without a plan to actually get it done, that's all it is. And so that's what I'm saying is I'd just like to see some specifics so that we can see that done, because it would make all the difference.
You know, it's not like I have a life, but I went to 2 other school board meetings in the last 2 months. And one was a 1A school. And so, and when you get a class of 27, that moves up and the next class is 18, things don't work very well, okay? So I looked at things nationally to see what people were doing and when they have those imbalances from one class to another. And, the online work, I'm a techie, so bear with us, but that's becoming a solution to these things, where one teacher can teach 2 grade levels, but it's online in class. So utilizing the greatest tutor in the world, which is AI, they're able to do it, and the numbers have been very, 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 very good. And Khan Academy is the one that most of them are going to now. So that's not this year, obviously, but I think we have to hold those kind of ideas in the back of our mind as we move forward, because we could end up with these imbalanced areas, especially if we do well in the kindergarten this year. That's going to exceed the first grade class. As that kindergarten class moves up and the first grade moves up, and how do we work those things out?
And I want to just clarify one other thing. What a lot of people don't understand with our staffing model as well is that our teachers do so much more than a lot of other districts, okay? They teach multiple preps, they teach multiple grade levels, and that wouldn't fly in a lot of districts. I'm just going to be real honest. I mean, there's strict mean conferred things. You can't have more than 2 preps. You can't teach more than 1 grade level or 2 grade levels. So when you look at our teachers, especially if you take a look at the schedule for the high school, that's why we moved to the trimester, and that's why we reduced their load, is because it's unreasonable to think that Christine Barsima can teach 6 different classes a day, every day, and do reteach twice a week. And if she went to another district, she'd teach 1 class, more than likely, all day, and be paid $7,500 more. So we have to be careful when we look at this, because it's not always that simple. We have teachers outside of, our elementary are, pretty similar to everyone else, but you start getting into 6th grade up, these teachers are teaching a lot of times multiple preps, multiple subjects. I mean, if you look at our honors and gifted, they're teaching 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, plus a section of regular. They're teaching 4 different things a day, and they're doing it because they believe in what we're doing and they're excited about the new opportunity. So that's how we've been able to keep staff, is by having them be excited about being here and feeling that they're supported and feeling like this is a district of innovation and I can try something new and I can do that because we're small. But it's if our teachers ever came and said, hey, we're not going to teach multiple preps, we wouldn't be able to budget that. Because you have AP statistics, you have AP calculus, you have 6 kids in it. We have to fund that, or we're gonna lose those 6 kids to Desert Mountain or some other school where they do offer that course. So it's super complicated when you look at staffing. It is not, especially in a small district.
And we've been really blessed that our teachers, like you said, when one class moves up that might be smaller than the class that just left, our teachers have been very flexible of, well, I normally teach 1st grade, but now I need to teach 2nd grade, or I'm gonna go down to kindergarten, just so that, they can stay here in this district. So, our staff is very flexible, and they've been very easy to work with for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make one note. Ms. Settle noted me on page 5 on the actual budget forms. There's a transposition error that will be fixed when it's uploaded. So the Jason Way's number was budgeted for, but obviously the district is not levying for that. So
Correct.
It has no legally weight in that. So that'll be fixed before that's uploaded. So thank you.
And, sorry, Tyler, one other question. It will be, I know it's separate, but when we upload, so I'm trying to get to it, the summary of school district adopted expenditure budget, will it also come off of that one?
It will. They're tied together. When you take it off page 5, it takes it off the summary too. So.
Are there any other questions from the board? This is a public hearing, so if there's any questions from those of you in the audience that you would like to ask, please do so now. Anybody? Nobody has budget questions for Tyler? Okay. With that, I move that the board reconvene the regular meeting
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up is informational reports. We'll start with Dr. J.
Yeah, Madam President, members of the board and guests, we've been very busy. And just a few things I just want to share. So one, we have a lot of summer sports going on, which is great. That's how you build championship level programs. Volleyball just recently did very well up in Sholo, which is one you guys approved, so that's great to see. Football is heading out to California next week, or later this week.
I think they're there this week.
I should know this as a parent. Later this week. And they are, but they're going on their summer trip. This is good for team building, really good for Coach Skirm to get to know the kids and get after it for next season. The football field has been torn apart. If you haven't noticed, if you drive by, there's no field there anymore. So we're good. We got started on early Saturday morning. But the whole process, I was told originally would take about 2 weeks to do. So we should be right there. 2 weeks would put us right at the first day of practice being available. If not, we already have plans with Coach to move over to the area behind the bleachers or to the middle school if we want the new McDowell Mountain, if we have to. We spent the morning at Little Falcons preschool, a lot of us, an admin team, landscapers, bus drivers, everyone who's working this summer trying to get the consolidation done. And we are got everything we feel ready for licensing visit tomorrow. So we'll get more information tomorrow how that goes. McDowell Mountain is moving forward. I gave an update to the community with some pictures of some of the classrooms. One thing that I was told from someone in the community that I just want to clarify, someone shared with me that they were concerned that our kindergarten, first, second grade classrooms were using middle school desks, and I just want to be clear that that's absolutely not true. All of the desks have been moved from the old site to the new site. Some is new purchases, but a lot of it has been reused. So your kindergartner will not be in a middle school desk, I can assure you that. And I actually took some pictures of a first grade room to show how beautiful that school looks with all the desert landscaping out the windows and the natural light. It's going to be absolutely beautiful over at McDowell Mountain. The next step is our outdoor classroom is going to be, we're going to be working on that tomorrow. Just so you know, all of us we're putting chairs together. We are, moving furniture. Everyone, it's all hands on deck to get this done by August 3rd. The outdoor classroom is going to be a real selling point of McDowell Mountain. And we'll have pictures of that hopefully in the next day or two to be able to share out to our community. 2 classes at a time we'll be able to go out there and learn in nature, which I think is awesome, and be outside. Fountain Hills Middle School, thanks to Todd Harris and Heather Atkins, they're still painting. We've been talking about them for a while. They're still there every day painting. And so all the middle school trim around every door is no longer green, it's now black, and it really looks amazing with the school colors. So we're excited about where that's going, and a lot of work has been done over there. We're going to try to put together, well, we've been working on this, but now we're going to try to make it official that we're, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have a kindergarten, kind of like a kindergarten play session prior to school for kindergarten children and parents to come and start meeting each other. And, as a parent, you're going to be with those parents for a long time, and we want them to connect. We want the kids to have some friends on the first day of school. So we're putting together a session on Friday. We're trying to do Friday, July 21st, and more details to come on that. And with that, I conclude my comments.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. J?
I just wanted to clarify, with McDowell Mountain, did we paint everywhere at McDowell Mountain, like the band room and everywhere, or just the
I'd have to ask John.
Interior.
Every area I've walked over there that I've seen look painted to me, so I'd have to ask John.
the new?
I don't know, I would have to check on the band room. It's in a separate building, but I know.
Like any of the outbuildings?
Well, the art room, when I was in there, was being painted while I walked through it. That was being done by one of our bus drivers. I know he was working on that. And I think a lot of that is because it had, if I'm not mistaken, some like handprint, something on there that was unique. So I don't know, I'd have to ask John. But for the most part, the vast majority of the school is painted and looks great.
Okay.
Any other questions for Dr. J? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to governing board reports. We'll start with Ms. Reed.
We've been pretty busy with some board meetings, and outside of that, I've just been doing some personal research with the items on the agendas, as well as some trainings, and I also signed up for some classes with philosophy, American government, and nutrition.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Mrs. Settle?
Where at?
I just audit them on Coursera. You can
Okay.
audit, so I'm taking a couple through Stanford, University of Pennsylvania,
Good.
through Harvard.
For credit?
No, you can, there is an option for credit, but I just want the information, so,
Oh, that's good.
yeah.
Mrs. Settle?
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Sar?
So I'll use their time.
Oh, my goodness.
He's gonna use the time.
So, transitioning from the kindergarten discussion, that's the class of 2036, right? So I've been spending time researching what is ahead for the class of 2036. And it's pretty amazing if you get online and spend way too much time, of course, but, you know, it's not going to be anywhere near what the class of 2023 experienced. And so I think it behooves all school districts, and all entities in the schools, whether it's college or universities or K-12, to really make sure they're teaching kids, if you heard me say this before, for their future, not our past. And there's going to be a huge difference. I mean, it's geometric now. And so by the time 12 years rolls around, we may not need school buildings anymore. That's been discussion. Well, nobody knows for sure, obviously. But we were responsible for a class of kindergartners coming in, not just for that 1 year of kindergarten, but for all 12 years of their education, to make sure when they do graduate from here, that they're ready for what's out there at the time. And it may look totally different, and it may be a tough call for those of us who've been around 100 years that and remember things the way they were, that those days are gone. And it's technology in some cases, but it's culture in others, cultural in others. So I'll stop.
Okay.
Can I respond to that real quick?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Sar, because you and I have had plenty of talks when I was principal about innovation and the future, and at one point, I felt like Fountain Hills High School was one of the most innovative schools with the tech we had, and so, and even though it's 5 years old, I still think it's pretty relevant, but it is a little bit of yesterday's tech, but I do appreciate that, and that's one of the things we're working hard on, is reinventing the classroom space. I mean, it's no longer, it's just not what it was, 30, 40 years ago, and a lot of that has moved to collaboration and communicating with teams and working together, so a lot of that is what we're doing, and we do have a brochure going out to all our families soon, out to the community, and we did kind of come up with a tagline of, in our district, we know every student's name, we know their story, and we prepare them for their future, and we underline there for you. I just wanted to throw that out.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
I have no report. Okay, public comments. I know Krista's not here. Did anyone sign up to do a public comment?
I didn't sign up because she wasn't here.
Okay, come on up.
Having been a teacher here for,
You need to
Over
tell
a
us
Can you
who you-
state your name, please?
oh, I'm sorry, Cindy Couture, having been a teacher here for over a decade, I love our little school district. And I want us to have a reputation of a town that really supports.
Ms. Couture, I'm sorry. Let me stop you. I have to read the,
Oh,
sorry.
I read it.
I know. But I would need to make sure everybody understands it. So,
Okay.
call to the public. This is the time for the public to comment. Time limits may be allocated on public comment at the discretion of the board president for the board to efficiently complete its business. The board reserves the right to prohibit any comments made in a discourteous or threatening manner. Complaints about specific individuals, students, or personnel are discouraged. Personnel issues should be directed to the appropriate staff member or administrator per district policy. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. And we do allow 3 minutes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
You ruined my flow.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want us to be a town that supports the school. And I know, I look at the wonderful things we've done with painting and the football field and a lot of stuff that shows that this community values this school. So I think that's important to attract families, and we want to attract families, and that brings in more money and more students, obviously. So what my wish is that, and I don't know where you stand on this, but I hope that all school board, governing board members will enthusiastically support the bond. And I hope that we can get it passed so that we can have the financial support that we need. And that's it.
Thank you.
Do you want this?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much. Anybody else fill out a public comment form? All right, moving forward, the consent agenda, which consists of the personal action report, donations, renewal of the Trust Alliance insurance contract, and the Sodexo contract amendment purchase over $100,000, Sodexo being our food services. Are there questions or comments regarding the consent agenda?
I do have one. Regarding the resignations, are there reasons why we wouldn't see the request for a waiver, or did they not sign a new contract?
All the people on there besides Allie are all hourly employees. Allie only does summer school.
So the teacher at the middle school was hourly?
Oh, Rick
Right.
Cannon, he did not submit a
So then,
so we charged.
okay.
Any other questions regarding the consent agenda? Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. I did ask Dr. J in the future on the hard to fill, if you could let us know. I knew most of them, but there were some new names on there, what position they were in, so we ensure as the board that we are complying with the meet and confer. Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a motion from Lillian for the consent agenda? Do I have a second?
I second.
And Madison is a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up are the action items. First up is the adoption of the 23-24 budget that Tyler just presented. Are there any further questions regarding the budget? Hearing none, I move that we approve the 23-24 budget.
I'd like to amend that to reflect the change that was discussed earlier. So motion to approve the budget without the adjacent ways language included.
A second.
So,
Do
okay.
we need to
Sorry,
vote
I
on
would
it
probably need
first?
to vote on yours first, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll just amend.
Amendment first.
I'll just
Okay,
amend first.
amendment
yeah.
first.
Amendment first.
So,
I second the amended motion.
so is it her motion or my motion?
The amended motion.
She
Your
made a
motion.
motion to your motion.
Yes.
Right, but we
Your
should have
motion,
voted
her
on my
amendment.
motion first.
No.
No, we should vote on the amendment.
Okay,
Yeah, because she amended your movement.
Unless there's discussion.
okay.
Yeah.
So Libby motioned that the budget get approved minus the
Adjacent ways.
adjacent ways language. Madison seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Updated meet and confer, Dr. J?
Madam President, members of the board and guests, I'm going to have Kaylee speak to this, as this is, meet and confer was something that she was part of, and she can speak to that.
Thank you.
questions first before I go into the spiel, or you want me to just explain?
Why don't you go ahead and explain,
Okay.
and then if there's questions, we'll ask.
So what I did is I put in to increase the hard-to-fill stipend for the high school foreign language teacher. This will just kind of help with our hiring process, with looking at other districts and how we talked about, they're a lot more money in their salary than we do. So this is just kind of an extra little nudge, and we did luck out and find a really great Spanish teacher without having this discussion about the hard-to-fill stipend of $10,000 with her. But it was a struggle to try to find somebody for our price. So that was the first one. The second one is on there for the doctoral stipend. That's something that, coming from Scottsdale, we gave to all staff, classified, certified, whoever got a doctorate. That just kind of encourages our staff to go back to school. I know myself, I'm doing my master's and I'm going to go do my PhD after, so that's kind of an extra, cool, I can get a $3,000 stipend for continuing my education, and anyone could do that. We currently only have 4 on staff, with one of them being a new hire. So it's not a large increase to our district, but. Any question?
So did you offer the Spanish teacher the 10,000?
No.
Okay.
No. Just the regular, it was in there as 5,000.
Okay.
So she knows she's getting the 5,000.
But if it's approved tonight, she would receive the 10.
Yes, and I would email her and let her know. She has no idea about the 10,000, so it'd be kind of like, oh, surprise.
Okay.
Is there a reason why we are not doing the 10,000 across the board for the hard to fill, just because of, make it equitable to everyone?
And that's something we did think about too. With math and the high school band, like we got Mr. Gardner, who's amazing. The science and stuff like that. I didn't have as big of an issue finding qualified candidates for that. It was more the specialized Spanish. If we were going to have like anatomy specific, I think that's something that we could do, but we got really great teachers with what we have right now, and all of them were like, oh, $5,000, that's awesome. Spanish was the hardest one so far.
And I'll just add to that it is something we want to do, there's no doubt. But we are, with our budget and what we're trying to do with raising salaries, Spanish has been the hardest position for us to hire. And this goes back years. Okay, we had Ms. Bittner for a long time. She was fantastic.
She was amazing.
If she's out there listening, come talk to us. Believe me, I've already called her twice. And not even
And she
just
hung up
this
and
year.
blocked you now.
Yeah, just in the past. But Bittner was great, and when she left, we went through a series of teachers. Like when we finally got someone really strong, Kalani McLean was here for a few years. Distance from home was just really far, and with the pandemic, she ended up going closer to home. But bottom line is, it's a hard position to fill, and we typically in the past have it's a one-person department at the high school, right? And so if we don't get someone really strong in there, it really hurts our enrollment at the high school, because if you go to, any other district nearby, you can take a variety of world languages. It's not just Spanish. And so we have to be able to, in my opinion, be very, this will put us even with Scottsdale, our biggest, competitor for teachers. It won't get us to Mesa, but it'll get us to Scottsdale, at least, that we will be right in that mix of getting a teacher in the future if we need to for Spanish, so.
And did Meet and Confer reconvene to go over this, like the actual?
No, we had mentioned it when we did our original meetings, but we chose to do it at a later point. So it wasn't like an official, hey, we're going to meet and have this. It was more just, hey, if we have time later on in the year, we're going to add more things to our agenda.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
My question's two-part. Why did we jump from 5 to 10? And why did we go forward with this if we were able to fill the position, especially considering that we're not able to offer that to others?
I'll answer that. So one is, if at 5, we're still below Scottsdale. And Scottsdale is not even close to Tyler's district in Higley and Chandler and some of the other districts that we're competing with. So for us, this gets us even, or maybe even, maybe possibly ahead, but probably not, because if they have an advanced degree, that's where we kind of lose out a little bit. Remember, our salary schedule, we have not had one until recently. Remember, we're only at 10 years right now, right? Or did we bump it to 15 this last year? I think we're just getting it started, right? So Scottsdale goes to 25, other districts go to 25 and plus. Other districts give retention bonuses and things like that. So for us, this gets us as close as we can in the future if we need to hire. And what we've seen already this summer is a few hires we've made have backed out because of travel or because they found a different position. And so this is just something that we felt needed to be done to keep, not just get somebody, but keep them here too. Because if we keep having turnover every single year, it doesn't help that program any. And this past year, that was probably the biggest concern I got from parents was the world language department needed to be repaired.
Did we look at places like BYU Independent Study for things like that? Or don't we do some through there already?
We're moving away from all that. That's the reason for the new schedule is we had 220 kids taking an online class. And to me, depending on the online class and what it is, there's a need for it, but it shouldn't supplement a kid's schedule in the day. We need a Spanish teacher teaching every day, being with the kids. And we got a really good one from a small district who taught in a trimester, and we feel very strong about this candidate. So,
And the second, what Dr. J said is, it's not just to attract somebody, it's to keep them. So, she's.
Well, I mean, if
obviously
she took
very
it with the 5,000.
Right, but every
that's
year
something
you're-
excited. Maybe to look at maybe
But
next
every
year.
year-
She's
every
okay
year-
with
your
the
stuff
5.
increases, your housing increases, and it's a way to say, hey, wait, we know we're small, you're not gonna make as much here, but you do have a salary.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying that with the financial situation that we're in, where we're trying to be careful, when she already took the job with the $5,000 bonus, it might be a little soon to jump in.
but all this
For an
is going
additional
on
model.
as we're going through the process. So, yeah, we got lucky. Chris Alexander has been working on Plan B all year, which is doing it through concurrent enrollment through SEC and a virtual environment. And so that was something we looked into, but it's not ideal for high school kids. It's not good when we're trying to retain our students and our families here. So this is, again, this is for something that is step one in hopefully doing this in more levels in different departments and trying to get that pay up so that we can keep people here, for sure. Okay?
And then one other question, that annual doctoral stipend, so the Spanish teacher stipend, that is a per year stipend?
Yes.
Correct,
Yeah.
okay.
All of our hard to fills are annual to be reviewed every single year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The doctoral stipend, you said that's 4 employees? Okay, I have to ask, does that include Dr. J?
It does, but it doesn't mean he has to get it. So my goal for this is just certified teachers.
Okay, I was gonna ask, is there a way to have it be instructional staff, at least for the time being?
Yeah, this specific meet and confer is only for certified staff. It's not
Okay.
for administrators at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So ultimately, I would like to see the hard to fill for all staff be at the 7,500, because I don't think it's probably realistic to jump everybody up to the 10. And I kind of just, I want all of our teachers and staff to be paid more. So I struggle with having one double somebody else's. So that's my 2 cents. I'd rather see it. I mean, you could argue that with any position that we have. So I'd rather see everybody at 75 versus everybody else at 5 and a Spanish at 10.
I would like to move that we.
Well, hold on, we're not done
Okay,
discussing.
Okay, if
And-
there's more discussion, that's fine.
This isn't even something we can change, is it?
It's an action item.
But it's a meet and confer
You just
document,
approve
so.
it.
Yeah.
So we can't amend it at all, or,
You can amend it and I can take it back.
okay,
It's completely fine. I can.
But
bring
you
it
can't
back to
approve an amended version because you
Right.
didn't,
okay.
it's not our
Yes,
authority to write
okay,
it.
Okay.
I don't disagree with them because I'm kind of having a hard time that somebody's already accepted a job at 5,000 and now we're like, hey, let's give another 5,000 when we have teachers that have been here a long time. When did this person get hired? Like, what was the process here that the meet and confer happened and then we hired somebody but it was already part of the board packet? Is that
So
how
I
we
have
got
a
to this
couple
point?
things that I've had in my stuff that I've worked on. She was hired after I'd already created this, and
Okay.
I sent it to Krista, and then she said, okay, I'll put it on this date, because I have a couple things where she sent
Right.
me, we put it on future ones. That's why. So
So it
I
was
would have
already done.
delayed it, yeah. If we had already hired her, I would have delayed it and taken it back again for a different amount, but it would already have been submitted.
Okay, yeah, I'm just struggling with that because I don't, she took the position at what was offered.
Right.
And to just be like, oh, hey, like just by chance of circumstance, we were already looking at this.
Right.
I don't want to discourage anybody from working here, but I also don't want to have our teachers that have been here a long time that also get the hard-to-fill stipends feel like they were overlooked.
Yes.
So,
So can I move that we table it with discussion pending?
yes,
Because.
go ahead and make your motion.
Okay.
Could
Well, do I
say
let them know what I
something?
would?
Before you do, let me
Okay.
just say something. I mean, I have no problem with giving the person extra. I mean, I know what it's like not to get this position. I just have more of a problem with it being every year. That's where I feel like it's not equitable to the other teachers that are working here. That if we were to say every single year, this group will get more money than the rest.
All the hard-to-fill do.
But I guess I could see your point with a one that's an additional difficulty to fill, having a sign-on bonus versus an additional annual amount that's
Right.
added. That makes a little more sense.
But
Yeah,
you
if
gotta
it was-
remember
yeah.
that regardless, when you go into hard to fill,
Right.
that's not everybody. I was a social studies teacher, so I wasn't gonna get that money, okay? So there's already that inequity there between the core subjects that, hey, you teach science or math, you're making more money than I do in social studies or English or whatever it is. So you're always going to run into that. And what we're dealing with now is a very, very competitive market of there's a lot of, there's gonna be a lot of vacancies this year. So whether you wanna approve it now or look at it later, the bottom line is there's always gonna be an inequity there, unfortunately. And we'd love to pay everyone more money. But if, like I said, my hope is that we can keep somebody in such a demanding position. And I do want to be clear that teachers do shop from time to time, different jobs, right? That's normal. You can make more money, you can go to a different district, you can get, a better position. And so we're up against competition. And when districts, like Higley and Chandler are paying what they pay, it makes it really hard for us, being small, to keep those kind of people. So this is just such a specific position is why it was brought to the table. That's why, because it's so hard to find. And if we don't have that position for whatever reason, if this teacher doesn't say, end up coming or resigns or at the end of next year, we're right back to the same position again. And it is a very, very hard to fill position that's only going to get harder to fill.
And I appreciate that, but, we've been talking about our special education staff, right? And the horror of going with an outside contracting agency. So to leave our special ed staff at 5 on a position that we either have to have or send those children, our students outside of the district, and we're looking at double of a hard-to-fill stipend for a foreign language, I struggle. I think we need to appreciate the staff we have that are in hard-to-fill positions. And I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I think asking Meet and Confer if they're willing to look at $7,500 for all staff in the hard-to-fill would be.
Well, we can't, we wouldn't be able to do that. Tyler's losing it.
But I think you have to make hard choices, right? And
Well, and even if this had come at 7,500, I probably would have been a little bit more open to it, but I just think doubling it is a lot. So, I prefer that Meet and Confer look at the hard-to-fill stipends over the course of the year. I would hope that the teacher who has committed, has she signed her contract?
Yes.
Okay. Would continue with that based on what she agreed to in the beginning. I don't think it's fair at this point to change and she gets a windfall because it kind of fell in that timeframe.
I can see it being, an extra, just a bonus.
Like a sign-on
An
bonus.
extra sign-on
And that
for
may be
this year.
something that Meet and Confer looks at too, for hard-to-fill positions, as opposed to a yearly stipend.
Right.
Higher than what our other teachers are getting, but maybe a hard-to-fill sign-on bonus. So-
Well, and I think that, and this is maybe outside of this discussion, but I think there are some creative ways of supporting people that would help them feel like, I know there's plenty of people in our community that have wanted Spanish clubs that have offered help. So maybe there's just some ways to get some support that would also help with that position. And then the other comment I have is just, I would be more comfortable if we put in there that the focus for that doctoral stipend is on instructional staff, at least for the time being. until we're in a little bit better of a financial
Yeah, in the
situation.
description of the meet and confer,
Or-
it says specifically who the jobs are.
Right, you're only
Okay,
seeing.
Yeah, you're
one
only
page.
seeing the part I changed.
Okay, thank you.
And as a former Spanish teacher, in
Yes,
this
I-
case, at the school here, we're talking about the entire department, because there's one person. You know, where I taught, we had a huge department with many languages.
But there's,
But-
there's other areas that we have, you know, that
One
it's kind
person.
of their own
Ex-
person too.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah.
Okay. How many students do we have that take Spanish? Do you know?
Well, it'll be packed every,
Because that's all we have.
we may have to,
Is there interest in more world languages from our students? Like if we opened world language?
sure, but I don't have the staffing to do it.
And we've offered it before, and we've never had enough students to actually complete it. That's where we did the BYU. We had so many licenses for certain foreign languages, you know, that we have to pay for them to take that class online. And it just never, it never really worked.
There wasn't a
So-
way to have like one world language class where kids could be.
You gotta have a
For-
teacher in there when
yeah,
you're
you have to have a
teaching.
teacher.
No, I mean, obviously there would need to be some kind of oversight, but I mean, we are putting kids on.
No, they would go sit
Online
in the
for other
library and
things.
do the BYU online.
Oh,
But it
okay.
was limited on how many licenses we could have, and then we still weren't getting the students to sign up for it. You know, I mean, years ago, there were other languages. We've looked at bringing in Mandarin, we've looked at bringing in French, but there's not the interest.
Yeah.
So not in a school or small, you know, that's so small. You would need like a teacher that only taught like one or two classes, and that's severely part-time, so. Okay, I'm gonna move that we table this, and that meet and confer can relook at it. Okay. So do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up is Bloom, formerly Troxel, purchases over 100,000. Dr. J?
Yeah, Madam President, members of the board and guests, this is coming to you because Bloom and Troxel have united, you know, down the, prior to, and we, before we started our new administrative team, there was purchases through Troxel for Chromebooks and things of that nature, and so with two different company names, we saw that and had to bring it forward. So the Bloom piece is really, I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna estimate it as, well, first of all, the Lou purchase is through a grant, okay? So that would come out of, you know, separate funding. And then the install of it would basically be the only thing that would be going out of our budget to Bloom and is to install. And it is a complicated install because of the amount of pieces and the weight of it and those types of things, so. yeah.
Do you know what the install's gonna be, or approximately?
I would say right around 8,500 to
Okay.
install. It needs electrical, it needs data, and it needs to be supported. It's over, one piece of it is over, right around 200 pounds, I think, that has to be supported. And there's about 4 pieces that work together to make the thing work. So, one of the things we're working with them on is is the scissor lift piece. So we've rented one in the past, and we're gonna try to provide our own to take some cost off of there.
So did you get an updated quote from Bloom? Because when we spoke on Sunday, you had said 15 to 20
Yeah,
for install.
I was looking at, you know, the total cost, but the cost of the machine itself came in at 24,000, which is paid for out of the grant. And then like I said, I believe the installation, after looking at more specific information after we talked on the phone, it's gonna be right around 8,500. Because there's a $1,200 scissor lift piece to it that I think we can do better on. So since we have one right now we're using to do work around, I think John can do that much cheaper when the time comes.
I appreciate the repurposing.
Mm-hmm.
What grant is covering this?
I'd have to ask Leah, she's the one that applied for it, and she
Can you
was
get-
gonna be here tonight, but her flight was canceled, so.
Can you get that
Mhm.
to me?
Yeah,
or
we
to
can
us?
share that to you.
And then we have to pay for installation, but is there anything in the grant that goes for ongoing maintenance and cost, as this is a piece of technology? probably
I don't believe,
programs and-
I believe it's to get the machine and get it installed, and then, I think it's about $1,000, $1,200 a year to maintain it with updated software and support and cloud services and all those types of things.
Is that the subscription for 1 year where it
Yes.
says $13.55?
Yeah, so $13.50, sorry.
Okay, and does that include updated programs to like
It
cycle
does.
things through?
Anything new comes out, we would be first to get it. It's all done through the cloud. And then that allows us to edit the games as well. So for example, I'm gonna show you a demo of like a spelling and a math one. You can go in and change the problems and change the spelling words and things like that, which allows you to do that when you have the service with it as well. Okay?
And when would this be utilized or used?
I see it being utilized in a lot of ways. One is I look at it as, it's great for before school care, especially in the winter when it's dark outside at 7 a.m. So having kids inside, working in that indoor playground that we're developing in the 2nd and 3rd grade team room. I think it'd be great for that. I think it's great for PBIS time, reward time for all, finishing out the week, with
As in
meeting.
like a class goes or?
Well,
student?
I mean, when, a lot of times they called it, in the old days, we called it preferred activity time, right?
Okay.
And so, if we all pass this, or we all get this done, or we have a great week, we're gonna spend 30 minutes at the end of the week doing something preferred, right? I think it could be fun for that. I think it'd be used in PE. We're fortunate to have a gym now, so like, we don't have as many issues with space and weather, but I do think it's great for PE to get kids up and give them something else to do that's engaging and fun. I see it for a math class to go in, as I'll show you. You can do some math facts, you can do some spelling words, things of that nature as well. So I think it has a lot of purposes and all the reviews that we've seen. And I went and took a look at one in person, and it's pretty awesome.
Can I ask why we were looking at this specifically, like what we felt it would bring to our district that we couldn't do in another way?
Yeah, engagement. I think you got to have things that sell our school and sell fun and learning. And I think you make learning fun by doing fun things. And so, when you're looking at elementary kids who are getting excited about learning because it's turned into a game, it's a screen that they can touch, they can interact with. You're talking hopefully 500 kids at that school that'll all be utilizing at different times throughout the year. I think it's a pretty awesome thing. And the fact that it's paid for out of a grant makes it even better.
Well, the initial payment comes out of a grant, but there is some incident, I don't know if the $13.55 is all that we would be responsible for.
That's what I was told.
Ongoing.
Yeah.
But my main concern with it is just that it is a screen. I know that I limit my children's time on screens because I can see the way it affects their behavior almost immediately once they have too much screen time. And I really appreciated that you put a focus and an emphasis on returning to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that this does have interactive features to it, but I would much rather see something more like a parkour gym or something that's indoor maybe still.
We're doing that too.
But, okay, that's awesome.
Mhm.
But yeah, something that's.
Not parkour, but
not
we're doing
quite
an
as-
indoor gym, like an indoor playground is going in is the hope as well. So yeah, so we are looking at, again, we're talking about everything we're doing is about trying to get kids excited about our schools and get enrollment up. And I can just tell you that I've done so many tours over the years, and some of you board members who've been here a while know, as principal, I gave every single tour. As principal, I do a lot of them as superintendent too. And I know what parents get excited about, and I take feedback from them, and I believe that what you offer that's outside the box, that's different than every other school, helps in such a competitive school choice environment. You have to have things that differentiate you from the competition. And so this is one of those things that will differentiate us from the competition and give our kids an amazing, fun, educational experience.
I agree, and we've had this discussion before, and I think we just have a different opinion on what will attract people, because my concern is that, we'll put in this awesome, modern system, but then Scottsdale, who has a lot more financial, ability than us, is gonna do the exact same thing. And instead, I think that what we really should focus on is exactly what Ms. Couture talked about. We have a community that is very supportive of our school. We have staff and teachers that are awesome, that have been here forever. I think our wow factor is the people in this community.
So
You know,
do
We're
I.
all Falcons. So I think that if we can really rally around that and maybe focus a little less on these modern wow factors that,
But it's not moving the needle. That's the problem. That's why we've been in declining enrollment for so long. And
well, I would
so,
argue that it is moving the
and
needle.
Scottsdale can certainly,
We've heard a
they
lot
can
of
certainly
people
do a
co-
lot of the things
you know,
that we do. They just.
telling us they're
yeah.
moving here from other districts because they lost their ability to have any kind of interaction as a parent, or they lost their ability to have some kind of say as a community member. We've seen people move here because of that, because they trust the small town community of Fountain Hills to have them and their child's best interest at heart. And so I think that we have some,
Yeah, again, we do, because I've looked at this for a long time. I've been in the district a long time, and I've seen what's happened here. And like I said, we've tried everything down the line. And so what we are going for is the experience that kids have, and experience matters. It just does, to families and to kids. And like I said, Scottsdale may take some of the ideas that we do, but one thing that a lot of their schools don't have is the space to pull something off like this that we can do. We have these large team rooms. We have space that people in the past were forward thinking about to ensure that we can do the things that we want to do. But again, like I said, I was brought in to raise enrollment, try to breathe some life in the district, get it going. And like, after being here a long time and seeing what moves the needle, it's not class size. It hasn't been. We've been in the smallest class size for a long time. And people aren't moving here and telling us that's the reason. A lot of people are moving here because it's a great community and the schools have good reputations. And they do like that it's small, but just because it's small doesn't mean it shouldn't be interactive and engaging to kids. And when you want kids to be successful, the best thing as a teacher is to get them excited. And using tools and aids like this brings excitement to the kids, and that's what you're after.
And, we used to be a school that had one-on-one technology. And when my kids were in school, that was like a big talk amongst the parents. Like, everybody loved that we were able to offer one-on-one technology. It felt like we had a step up above a lot of other schools. And so parents were very chattery about that. They loved, that their kids could go to school, but they didn't have to send their iPads, they didn't have to send their phones, whatever, that it was provided at the school. But we're not able to offer that anymore. Without the capital money, we can't have one-on-one, computers anymore, where they can't have one-on-one iPads. So I think I agree with you that play is important in staying off technology. The teacher's got to be able to teach from other materials, not just technology. But I think that we also have to have that as an opportunity. And so, engagement has been a hot topic for a long time. How do teachers engage students? Well, kids are engaged by something that's bright, that's something that captures their attention. And we used to be able to do that on iPads. We can't do that anymore. So, for a minimal cost every year, and with the grant paying for this, it is an opportunity to provide technology in a different facet than one-on-one.
And it's very minimal screen time compared to what they're doing now. I mean, let's just be honest.
I'm super glad we moved away
Okay,
from
so we've
the
moved
one-on-one.
away from a lot of that.
But
At the high
that's funny
school,
because people aren't.
the high school.
I had a lot of parents that were,
So
The high school's gonna
I
take a
think it
little
just
more
depends
time
on
to
who you
get
talk
there.
to.
Because there is some things there that, preparing for college and preparing for university and things like that, there is a little bit different need, but the whole name of McDowell Mountain we're going for is a school of discovery, like playing and learning in different environments. And, one day I'm learning outside in nature, next minute I'm playing this awesome game inside, and then the next day I'm in the library and the planetarium. And these are all things we're trying to bring to our kids to sell this place as you don't need to go anywhere else because this place is so awesome. This is where you want to be. And sometimes having things and buildings that look away and offer kids different opportunities does sell.
Is that a demonstration that you're going to show?
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay,
just show
go
you a
ahead.
few things. Okay. So for example, this is a spelling a spelling one here. So that's one in spelling. Here's a math one here, kind of similar in the same style. So what's nice here is the teacher can put in what math problems they want based on their ability and their level by having that subscription to it.
Are those two kids going against each other?
They can go against each other and make it a competition, or you can do it all at once and just do it as a team. You can call kids to have a turn. So it gives you a lot of different options there. So I want to be clear, it's not like this is what kids are going to do all day. Like they're gonna go in there from time to time. Maybe there's a need for, like we want to make this some fun, or maybe we had a bad test day, and so let's go in and take all the problems we missed. Let's put them in this, and let's go in there and learn them again. I'm a big fan of reteach and going back and looking at the material we lost. And so for kids, I'm very confident, if this all goes through and it's all installed and working, that the kids will be super excited to learn and have a great experience when they are. In fact, I think they're going to be so excited on the day they get to use it, because it won't be an everyday thing. It'll be a special thing for them.
And as Dana said, we need to prepare for the future. And computers are going to be here to stay and everything else. And I know the kids are so used to playing all the time that sometimes they don't want to pay attention in class when the teacher's just standing there talking. So it's nice to have something different like this every once in a while.
Yeah, it's another
Obviously, not
teaching
all
aid.
day.
And there's sports, there's other things you can do at recess, like if you have a rain day or you want to, before school care, remember we're doing free 7 a.m. care for everybody in the community now. So you can come in at 7 a.m., that's new. This is really great for those people that are trying to find things to do on a daily basis. So, they might do 20 minutes of that, 20 minutes of reading in the library, 20 minutes on the playground when the sun comes up. It just gives us more flexibility on things that we want to do, and it comes to us at a very small cost. We're looking at, 80, I'm going to guess around 8,500 this year, and then 1,300 moving forward. And you could cancel the subscription if you ever wanted to, and it'll still work. You just won't get the updated games, and you won't be able to modify it. But I mean, when you look at something like PLP that costs the district $160,000 a year, we're trying to cut those things out and replace them with other things that are more affordable but also fun. And what's also nice is this is very similar to what our PTO graciously put in, thank you PTO, at the middle school with a donation there for what they call multi-ball. And it's a little bit smaller version of this, and I think the games are a little more advanced for middle school kids, where these are really designed mostly for our real younger kids, probably kindergarten through. I think fifth graders would still have fun with it, but they might lose a little interest as they get a little bit older. But then we have something similar at the middle school for them to go to next, which is also, again, it's a selling point when you're walking a tour around and they're like, wow, this is really awesome. You got this and you have this and you have that. And that's what sells families. And I can tell you, I've done it so many of these tours. I can tell a lot of times when it's going well and when it's not going well. And a lot of it is the programming and what they see, because they don't have time in a tour to see people. It takes time to get to know people. The magic is our people, the teachers. But you have to get people to give us a shot first. And one of the ways they do that is through programs like AP Capstone and Avid, and then opportunities like this that other districts just don't have. The only other district I know of in Arizona that has this is Eloy has one. And I tried to get in touch with their superintendent, was unable to get a hold of them. So then I went to a tech expo and got to see it in person. So
So I realized you were busy setting up Little Falcon Preschool, but were you able to find out if we can
Yes,
opt out of?
certain apps?
Yes.
Sure, we have all that control. We can take them in, take them out, pick ones that we want. So yes, because it's highly customizable with that.
So what assurances would we have as a board that?
I would say you come visit and you dance with the
Take it out.
kindergartners doing the groove here.
I'd love
So,
I know it from the way you make me feel so alive, right now.
So I'd say come watch it in person, we'll show you, we can go through the menu, show you the apps, see the kids doing it. I mean, that was one of the things that sold our realtors more than anything when I took all of them on the tour, was when they danced with kindergartners. They loved that. They were like, this is so cool. This just gives another way to do it. And if the teacher themselves maybe doesn't have that ability to get up in front of their class and do that, there's a lot of these different things you can do. And you can also, I believe if you wanted to, you could have an app built as well, which I'm sure is pricey, but I'm just saying there are options there. And each year they come out with a few new games and a few new activities for our kids. So with that, I do recommend that we move forward with this. I think it's a very, very low cost to the district, and and the rewards are going to be very, very good, very high, I should say, for our kids.
Are there any other questions?
I have a couple. First, I would not be able to vote on this until I know the following things. I want to know the total cost per year, if it is that $13.55.
It is.
I would just,
It is.
okay.
Yep.
I'd like to see the warranty and know what kind of coverage there is for the.
It's a 1-year
equipment
warranty.
itself. Okay.
You can buy an additional warranty, but I didn't feel that the price reflected, I just didn't feel like it was pretty high.
But this is I've used projectors that are more user-friendly than something like this, and it is gonna be something that's gonna have a lot of issues. And I would like to know the agreements or the terms of use with the company and
So-
Blue itself.
So one of the things is Bloom is a licensed organization to do these installs. So one of the things I found going through this process is that if you use an outside installer, someone who's not licensed, someone who doesn't work with this company, that installer takes on all responsibility and risk for the lifetime of the product. So that's one of the reasons we need to go with a certified company that can do the install. Additionally, it's a very complicated install. It is not something that's real simple to do. So yeah, that yearly price is what it is. The install, I've given you the price of that. The only thing that's up in the air is the scissor lift, which I feel I can negotiate through and bring that price down a little bit. And what was your last question?
The agreement with the company?
The agreement with the
Terms of
company
use.
is, it's a 1-year warranty, but then we can also work through with Bloom and with Lou on any replacement parts or anything like that. It is something that you can, if you're out of warranty, you can replace and you can fix. So, again, I'm trying to save us money here, and I'm looking at, does that additional 1 or 2 year warranty really going to pay for itself? You're running a gamble on any warranty. I can tell you most warranties, as soon as they expire, the thing breaks, right? So,
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm trying to save us some money and say, I feel confident that this is not gonna be used on a daily, I don't see it being a daily basis where it's so overused that it's gonna break in a short period of time. But I feel confident that we can get it repaired through Bloom.
I saw the kids throwing balls. Do they have a way that it's protected from,
It's the wall, there's no screen.
but isn't there like a projector up above?
Yeah, it's in a cage
Okay,
or
it's
something like
pretty-
that. And it's 15, 17 feet in the air, yeah.
Okay, and then I'd also like to see the grant specifications as far as like what's expected and what was expected to be
Why didn't you ask
submitted.
these questions before the meeting?
Because we got all
Yeah, I
of
could
this
have got
Friday.
that, I could have got that for you.
I told you I was waiting to see the presentation so that I
Right.
could know what I wanted.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, we've had a lot of things, we've had to push back on consolidation to get things up and running. And this is something that I really believe that we need to get going. Kevin needs things for the kids to do.
Well, we're doing a planetarium in the
but
library.
Not right away, it hasn't even been approved yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now, Everything's been pushed back. So we need some things for our kids to do in the time being while we're finishing playgrounds and other consolidation things. And I've shared with you that this is grant funded, and I've shared with you the cost, and I shared with you the benefit to our kids.
The other thing that would help these situations, and I've mentioned this before, I mentioned it last meeting, is us having some kind of idea as to what's gonna be on the agenda when. You know, I got the email Friday night and I was driving across the country. I got home at 5 o'clock this morning.
We're gonna talk about that at
So,
the retreat.
yes, there needs to be some way that maybe
Right.
we are able to submit questions and submit things
But I-
with enough time,
I
enough
agree, and I've
heads
got a
up that
plan
it's
for
not
that
over
for
a busy
next year. I've got a plan I'm gonna bring to the,
To the retreat.
to the retreat. But again, this is something I think we need to, again, I highly recommend that we move forward with.
Okay, I'm gonna motion that we approve, the Lou Interactive System through Bloom.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
So I motion, Lillian second, Dana, Jill, and Lillian are 3 yeas, and Madison and Libby are no.
Can I ask a point of clarification? So you motioned only for the approval of Lou, so any other purchase from Bloom, he'd have to bring back to the board, is that correct?
I think that's what
This is
we
for,
need.
this is
yeah.
just for the Lou Interactive System,
To be installed by Bloom.
right, to be installed by Bloom.
Yeah, so no, it would be, that is one, so that is approved, but
It's an authorization to spend over 100K for Bloom.
Are there other things you're
But
doing with Bloom?
I don't foresee anything I don't see anything right now, no. So I would be willing to,
Yeah,
if we
if
need
there's
to, bring it
something
back to
else.
you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't want to, I'm not going to give a
Sign a
blanket
blanket.
purchase for Bloom, just, this is for specifically for the
But
Lou
we also
Interactive
do
System.
need to approve, but we do need to approve over 100,000 because of past purchases.
Right.
So
It's-
maybe we should remotion
So
that.
Okay.
I move we approve a purchase of over 100,000 to Bloom for the installation of, to include the installation of Lou Interactive.
Yes.
Okay.
I second.
Or actually, I guess I don't move because I voted against it.
Right.
But I just
Well-
clarified her movement, but I'm not moving.
You just motioned, so
You got a motion?
Well, I'm voting against it, so I guess I'm.
Okay, well,
I'm voting
Madison
against it.
motioned
Right.
to approve the purchase of over $100,000 for the installation of the Lou system through Bloom. Lillian seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Same vote. All right. The instructional time model.
Madam President, members of the board and guests, as you can see, this is a continuation of last year's instructional time model. It's important that we have this. The state has allowed us through the COVID years to be able to pivot as needed with our instructional time. Like, for example, with the pipe that broke, we were able to go to virtual learning again for a week while that was repaired and then come back without losing any funding. The only change to this year's plan is the internship is added into this. And what we're working with the state is to allow the seniors' early release time on Wednesdays to be used in this instructional time model where they can earn credit by working outside of the school day in the community. We have got an answer back from the state that's really hard to read. Mr. Alexander believes it is a go. I'm still want like it more specified, like you are good. Like that's what I'm looking for. But we do need instructional time model regardless, I believe, in case something were to come up or we need to pivot in some way. An additional band being in the evening also would fall under something like an instructional time model because we would be doing it outside of the regular day, but still getting credit for it because the kids are putting in the 720 or the 123 hours they need for a full year of credit. So with that, I do recommend approval.
Are there questions regarding the instructional time model? Okay,
I move we approve the instructional time model.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve this, the instructional time model. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So that was Lillian that motioned and Libby second. Okay. Next up is the Beyond Textbooks IGA.
Madam President, members, of the board, and guests, this is a annual renewal of our IGA with Beyond Textbooks that goes back to the original approval back in 2017 when we brought it in. I did speak with Dave Paoli today regarding this, and he had no concerns moving forward with this. It's just a continuation of something we've been doing for the last 6 years now. I also want to show a little bit of how this works real quickly to some of our new members and guests. Beyond Textbooks is a teaching aid, and that's really what it is. It's an aid for teachers to help them be able to do their job more effectively. So for a veteran teacher, it's nice because, again, they can, maybe they've done it a certain way for a long time, and maybe they're looking at, for example, maybe I shouldn't teach World War II for 4 months, right? Maybe I should knock that down to 3 weeks. And so I was one of those teachers who really liked certain things, and you get caught up in it and you realize I got to get moving forward. For new teachers, this is fantastic because they're so new that a lot of times they don't know where to start, and if they don't have a lot of mentorship and a lot of help, this is really beneficial to them. Going back to 2017, I brought this in as the high school principal because we needed to have basically curriculum maps. We needed to have a way to go through what is required. And when I use the word curriculum maps, I say that because all a curriculum map typically is your state standards and how you're going to teach those. Those state standards are determined beyond us, and we have to teach those. So all Beyond Textbooks is doing here is they're taking the state standards, and what they do is they unwrap them into documents to allow teachers to be able to see exactly what it is to teach, what the DOK levels are, maybe things to consider as far as timing goes and things of that nature. What our teachers primarily use it for is this, which is the calendar function. So when we brought this in 2017, we only brought it to math. And the 4 math teachers agreed to do this and pilot it that year. It became very popular at the high school. English joined the next year, social studies and science the following year. During that, and I'll go back to kind of some data on this, but what's great is for teachers and for administrators, I'm going to use high school just because I'm more familiar with high school. So if I go to high school here and I go to math, I automatically can see the math courses that we offer that Beyond Textbooks does all this work for us. So for example, Algebra 1 is one of the areas we had the most trouble with back in 2017. I want to say high 20% pass rate. It was really an issue for us. When we brought in Beyond Textbooks, what this does for us is it takes the standards and it basically calendars them out for the entire year. So you can get a summary of the whole year. You can look at them by week, you can look at them by day. But what's great about this is as I go through the year, I know exactly what I should be teaching, and I know approximately how long I should be teaching it, but how I teach it is still up to that teacher to be the professional, and that's why they got into this job, is to be able to teach kids. So if I go to this, for example, here's a math one here. This tells me right here, and this is straight from the state standards, the highly proficient student can compare and contrast equations and graphs that model linear and exponential relationships. So when I walk in as a principal to that classroom, that's what I should be seeing on that day, which is really nice. And all math teachers that teach Algebra 1 typically are working on that same thing. So collectively, they plan together, they do assessments together, and they work together to ensure that. What they do then is they take the document and they unwrap it and basically make it more user-friendly for a teacher. And then they have formative assessments. So one of the keys to our growth when we use this is that every Friday there's a formative assessment at the end of the week, which is 5 questions. And all it's doing is making sure that all the kids in that room know what was taught that week. And for us to be proficient, highly proficient, you had to get an 8 out of 10 on that. So you had to get 4 out of 5 right. If you didn't get 4 out of 5 right, you had to go to reteach the following week. That was where we really started to make growth, because if I got an 8, I could still go to reteach and go for 100. If I got a 2, I can still go to reteach, and I have to go now, but I can also raise my grade. And so what kids loved about this is their grades were going up. They felt supported. They didn't feel like at the end of the week when I failed a quiz, we're just going on to the next thing. it was a pause that we can go back and relook at it. So for example, if we take a look at this, here's a formative assessment, and you can see that there are the 5 questions here. So some of these, depending on how you want to do it, you can have the quiz be 3 multiple choice, 2 extended response, or 5 multiple choice. We always went with 3 multiple choice, 2 extended response because we wanted kids to show their work and be able to show they knew the material. So if they missed, 2 of the original 5, we already knew they were in reteach, and then Jason Hensland would put them in the program and we would move forward. What's great about this is that after they take this formative assessment, when they do their next week of reteach, there's another formative assessment already ready for them with the same types of questions, just different numbers plugged in. And now they take that quiz again and we give them the higher of the 2 scores. So this is done throughout in all these different subject areas, grade levels, and things of that nature. And so now what you can do is you can go back and I can say, all right, now I'm going to go into, say, instead I'm going to go into a writing course. Which one am I going to? I'm going to writing 10. I can put multiple in if I'm going to go see multiple teachers, and I can go see those. And then it gives them that ability to plan and prepare and have a guide that basically tells them what they should do, okay? I want to show you this. I don't know if a lot of you have seen this, but this is pretty cool. So this is old. When the first round of letter grades came out, we were ranked as a C, and we felt like we had a lot of work to do. So we came together with Vail and did our Beyond Textbooks integration, and as a result of that, over the last 2 years, we just recently found out that we're in A school. So some of the things that have helped us with our growth is that with Beyond Textbooks, the teachers have that playbook of what they're supposed to teach and how long they're supposed to teach it. But what's been very powerful for us is letting our teachers decide how they're going to teach it and letting them be the professionals that they are to come up with interesting, innovative strategies in the classroom. Another success we've had is with Reteach. Our after-school Reteach program has really done amazing things for our students. So the third thing that we were able to do was to create kind of a culture here where the students want to be successful and they want to be the best that they can be.
We love Mountain Hills.
I love those kids, by the way. I'm sad that they're all graduated and doing great things. But this was done because we had such growth during that time that they came and wanted to showcase us because of the work that we were able to do during that time. So this is a presentation I gave back in 2019 before the pandemic, but I just want to show you where we started. So in Algebra 1, we started with a 29% pass rate. And by the time we were kind of getting going and really making our move, we were at 78% pass rate, which is amazing, right? You can see the state average was 39% at the time. So we started really below the state average, and we really gained. In geometry, we went from 42% to 66%. State average was 37%. And then in Algebra 2, which I believe is still the toughest test, that and English 11 are probably back in the old easy merit, but it was 39 to 50, with the state being at 34. We also had growth in English as well. So you can see we went from 45 to 67. We went from 48 to 57 with the crushing that state average again. And then we went from 37 to 52, crushing the state average in English 11, which I believe is one of the hardest tests at the time. But we also saw growth in our AP scores over time. So we went from, you can see the growth we had over the years when we started implementing Beyond Textbooks. And then you can see us compared to the global scores, and then to Arizona, we were above both at that time period. This is, again, the class of 18 at a 96% at the time. We had a couple of things. This is an old presentation. The class of 16 when we started was at 88% graduation rate. Heading to college was 94%. We reduced the number of total Fs by a ton. I mean, the kids, obviously we had kids graduating and doing much better as a result of that. This shows the top 5 comprehensive schools in 2019. And as you can see, Basha, Higley, Tyler, look away. Catalina Foothills, and then Fountain Hills. And the year before that, we were actually number 2. I just can't find that old spreadsheet. Catalina Foothills was the one the year before, and that's who we were kind of chasing. So the growth we had was exponential during that time, and it just works. The bottom line is the program works, it's successful, and the teachers to this day, our math teachers will testify to it, that they couldn't live without it at this point. They really believe strongly that this works. We're bringing reteach to the middle school. The same concepts being applied across the way. K-5 will have their intervention and reteach during the school day and that intervention and enrichment period that you saw in the schedule. So all of our schools now are aligned. They're doing formatives. They're reteaching. And I do expect to see some growth as we continue to implement this back after it just wasn't done with fidelity the last few years. Okay? So any questions you have about PT?
Are there questions regarding beyond textbooks? Go ahead, Madison.
Yep.
How much do we spend per year with beyond textbooks overall?
I think it's whatever's in there that, is it?
16.6 plus training?
We haven't done training in a while. We did not do it because of the cost of it last year. I wanted to, but my team advised me not to and to wait. I do believe that between Jessica Kane being from Vail, Chrissy Beard being from Vail, and my math team and myself, I think we can do a lot of those trainings in-house ourselves. That's why we save the money. But again, this was to fill the need of not having a curriculum department or someone like that. Yes, Chris Alexander oversees a lot of things and helps with this, but it really is something that Vail does this with, 200 or so different entities because of the fact that most of them are small schools that just can't do this on their own. They need to work with a larger district who's had success with this, and that's what we got from them, is they were one of the highest ranking districts when we took this on, and then we surpassed them in a lot of ways, but it's still a great program.
Question, this is not an LMS per se, then, is it?
Nope.
Do we use Power School or Power Teacher? Is that what we're using?
We use Power School, and we currently use Performance Matters, which is part of Power School. Our teachers right now, our high school teachers, want to make a move to Canvas, and we're working on that right now with them. We haven't officially done anything. We just had some conversations. And Canvas has a program that would replace Performance Matters called Mastery Connect. The reason is the teachers feel that most universities use Canvas. It's a little bit preparing them for that next level. And it has a secure browser for testing, which is something they really, really want with all the additional tech you've talked about all these months. So it's something that they do want. If we get rid of PLP and we move to this, it will save the district a lot of money. So that's what we're working on, but we're not ready to present to you at this time.
Well, I'm a campus person, both at the college and at EVIT, and Master Connect is a real improvement over the original one.
Yep.
And it's great for parents.
Yep.
Power School and Power Teacher kind of interact with Canvas.
They work really well with Canvas.
Not real well, but they do interact. You got to fudge things a lot.
Are you talking about on reporting grades or in the test itself?
In the reporting of grades.
Okay.
And actually, some of the testing, because we do a lot of authentic testing,
Okay.
and that doesn't work as well. But I'm a Canvas person. I probably spent in the last 3 days half my life on Canvas getting ready for the next school year. But it does a really good job of preparing students for college. The universities all use it. It's a learning management system, obviously.
So it would replace like Google Classroom and some of the things that we do, and it'd be a little more uniform. It would be for 6 through 12 only, not the K-5. And really the 6 through 12, it'd be more for the benchmarks and the formatives would be through there. So there would be a little bit of work we'd have to do with Vail to get Master Connect up and running at a high level. So that's why I said we're not ready to present to you at this time, but we do feel that is in the future. And this is teacher-driven, not admin-driven. This is coming from mainly the English department Miss Julian is excited to, she said she'd teach everyone in the district if we did it for her, so.
No, the investment in that compared to PLP would be a huge improvement.
I've been trying to get rid of PLP since I got here. It's just a little complicated because people are kind of hooked on it. There's a small number. We're working, Chris Alexander's been working with them. And we do need some kind of system for our virtual academy, which still has around 50, 60 kids in it. So we have to have something for them. So our goal is to get PLP out, with the exception of virtual academy. And then the following year, look for a different program or a different style for the virtual academy and possibly be done with that one altogether. But again, there's just a lot going on, and that was one that we just felt we could wait on.
I'm glad you're working on that.
Okay.
Are there other questions regarding the IGA?
Yes, I have questions. So Beyond Textbooks is not a curriculum,
It is not.
it's a calendar.
It's the state standards
And we're
broken
not able to
into
get,
calendars.
and we're not able to get the state standards and break it into a calendar ourselves.
Yeah,
In a way
but
that would work.
we certainly could, but you run into one, that's a lot of additional work for teachers, number one. And number two, how do you know it's right? You know, that's the hard part. Like you're hoping you get it right. What we've done is we've said this district has been doing this for a long, long time and has had a lot of success. Why reinvent the wheel here? Let's partner with them. Let's use what they've done. And like I said, if we did it in 2017 and our scores were the same 6 years later, I wouldn't be defending it at all. I'd be like, let's try something different. But I saw firsthand how this transformed our district.
And Vail's been the #1 district in the state of Arizona for many years.
Yeah,
It-
I've heard that, I know that
Yeah.
that's the reasoning. My main concern is that I feel that what they provide does fall under the definition of curriculum according to the ARS 15721. I mean, and it even says right here, Beyond Textbooks, a comprehensive program of curriculum development.
It's a tool. It's a resource.
And I did
Well, I
ask
mean, I
Dave-
understand we're calling it a resource,
Sure.
but we're using the resources to then teach our students. If we're not calling it a curriculum,
Well, first of all, it's a learning aid, number one. And number two, the board did approve it back in 2017. So what Dave shared with us is this is just a renewal of what we've been doing for the last 6 years. And so I did bring him your question, and he responded back that he said move forward, that he did not have any concerns with it.
I'd like further clarification on that because it says in here, for this purposes of this section, textbook, which means the curriculum that we're supposed to identify, means printed instructional materials or digital content or both, and related printed or non-printed instructional
Right.
materials that are written and published primarily, and it goes on. But it says that it has to go through that process that's listed of being on display for 60 days, going to the board for approval. And so I just want to make sure that we're in
Yeah.
compliance with the statute.
According to Dave, we
Using those
are,
resources.
and we shared that with him, and he said that he said there was no concern because we're just renewing what we've been doing since 2017.
It's like
I'm-
using the
I'm not
same
comfortable with
textbook for
that.
20 years.
Exactly.
Well, it's the same
But
thing.
it's, I mean, it's
If we-
not a
if we
textbook,
approve a
they're
text-
constantly
I know, but-
uploading new resources that are used to teach.
But
So-
Madison, if we approve AR or IXL or anything like that, we don't reapprove it every year, right? We approved it and we went with it, okay?
Yeah, but we're not calling this a curriculum and it,
Because it's the state standards, and there's teacher aids that are available to teachers to help them teach it. But it's not like they're making up, this is what US history should look like. They're not telling you that. They're going exactly with what the state tells you US history at 11th grade needs to be. What they've done is they've just broke it down to make it easier for teachers to be able to know what to teach. When I first started teaching, I got the textbook and that was it, right? And I was just left alone. And so you figure it out, but
So are we providing our staff with any sort of textbooks?
there are textbooks in certain grade levels, yes. There is. So for example, US history has a book that's 22 years old. They still use that book.
But there are classrooms that
I
do
guess,
not
yeah,
have
I was gonna
textbooks.
say, are there any teachers that are teaching primarily using resources from beyond textbooks?
I would have to go back and look, but I don't believe, the only one I know of that we're in desperate need of is the K-5 math curriculum, which we're going back through because it expired. But outside of that, At the high school, I'm just thinking in my head, you know, Spanish was approved years ago, social studies the same. English they all have some kind of adopted curriculum that they've had for a long time. We haven't done a lot of adoptions over time because of the fact that they have a book to use, but they also use some supplemental materials like current events or, you know, newspaper articles or things like that to teach certain things. So we put together any kind of book that's going to be used, any kind of novel that's being used. We did put together a committee to vet that before it comes to the board for any kind of approval. Same with library books. I don't believe she bought any library books last year as a result. You know, she just hasn't bought any. So we've put all that in place. There's some on display for next year right now, but we put all that in place to ensure our community that, hey, you know, people are looking over things prior to us moving forward with it. What I can say is that in all the years I've worked with Beyond Textbooks, I find it to be a fantastic program. It made all the difference in the world for us, and we went from having below average scores and a C rating to one of the best high schools in the state of Arizona, very, very quickly. Yeah.
So at a future meeting, can we have a presentation on our scores and where our students are
Yes,
at
for sure.
academically?
We've already got that plan. Absolutely, yep.
And I would appreciate a discussion with some kind of legal team, because from what I have found out personally, this would absolutely qualify as curriculum, so I just need some,
I can have Dave send you something.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions regarding Beyond Textbooks? Okay, hearing none, I move that the board approve the IGA between Vale Unified School District and Fountain Hills Unified School District for Beyond Textbooks.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
I have 3 yeas and 2 nays. Libby and Madison are the nays, with a motion from Jill and a second from Lillian. Next up is the Senior Internship and Community Service Program.
Madam President, members of the board, guests, this is just, again, revisiting what Chris shared with you. Nothing has really changed on that front other than they're finalizing things to send out to parents. And the goal is for Mr. Hartman to have something out by the end of the week with some information, just reminding the new schedule, some of the changes that are happening, and talk about the internship. But I do want to be very clear, we are going to be very flexible with seniors this year as we build into this. It can't go from an idea to full implementation in 1 year in my mind, or there's going to be a lot of issues. So we're going to work through it. We'll build for really the sophomore class to be that final product that we want. The juniors will have a better, a little bit better situation the following year after we work out some of the details. Other than that, the only change really is just that the instructional time model, we're going to put on their schedules on early release Wednesday internship, so that it's on their schedule that they should be working on that during that time.
Obviously, you said you'd be flexible this year, but moving forward, are all seniors required to do the internship?
What we did is we put it as an internship or a senior project.
Okay.
And a lot of districts do senior projects as well. I wanted to give the kids an option either way, but it's really about finalizing the portrait of a graduate, that culminating experience of, reviewing the skills that I've learned, reviewing the skills that I need to have moving forward, and then, putting some kind of process or project or experience together that will help them hopefully reflect before they go on to university and get into classes maybe they don't have an interest in, and save some money and save some time.
That's called EVIT.
Are there other questions regarding the senior internship?
I just have a comment. I already shared how excited I am about this. I would have been all over it. And I do love that there's the alternative research project as well, because for the kids that aren't able to take on an unpaid internship or something like that, they are still able to show those qualities that we want to see, like responsibility and accountability and all of those things. So I think that this is great. And if there's no other discussion, I move that we approve the Senior Internship and Community Service Program.
Okay, well, hold on, is there any other discussion? No, okay. So Madison made the motion to approve it. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the Senior Internship and Community Service Program. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That's 5 yeas with Madison making the motion and Lillian with the second. Next up is the increase to lunch prices.
Yeah, Madam President, members of the board and guests, you can see that after working with Sodexo and Scott and my team, we landed on, we do need to raise the prices of breakfast and lunch next year in order for us to attempt to break even. With inflation where it's been, when I started back in July of last year, that was one of the first things that came to me, was they had asked to move it at that time. I said no, because I didn't want the first thing I do to increase lunch prices without telling anybody. It was only a couple weeks away. And we're still kind of in this situation here, I get it. But I also feel like this is a much more of a minor shift than it would have been last year. So this would move it from $1.75 to $2, from $3.10 to $3.50, and with everything else with prices where they're at some point we were gonna have to also do that. I think it's still very, very affordable for families, and we do offer free and reduced lunch to anyone who qualifies.
Do you know about how many people we have that qualify for free and reduced lunch? What our percentage is from last year? Because obviously we don't know.
I historically, I would say we probably are close. Well, it's hard because
Well, it used to be almost 40%.
that's what I'd say. That's what I would go with. But the last 2 years, everything was free.
Oh.
Yeah, and so what we found last year is a lot of people didn't want to do the form because they hadn't had to do it the last couple of years, and so it became a challenge for us. So this year we've took some steps at Falcon Fest and a couple other ways to reach every parent and ensure they have the paperwork, and principals making phone calls to parents that are falling behind and letting them know that they do need to fill out the paperwork if they can't do that. So, but I also have worked hard to not deny any kid a lunch, so that's something I believe in.
Are there any questions regarding the new breakfast and lunch prices?
2 breakfast sandwiches and coffee is $17.50 at McDonald's.
Do you use the PTO card? Because you might be able to get a deal. Well, you should look
My
into
doctor
that.
says I can't do that anyway, so.
I move that we approve the menu price increase.
I second. All in favor of approving the breakfast and lunch increases, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's 5 yeses with Libby making the motion and Jill seconds. Next up is the updated classified salary schedule.
Madam President, members of the board and guests, I'm going to refer to Kaylee on this one.
Did you guys have questions for me first?
Is it just the administrative assistant?
Correct. Yep, it's just moving.
Due to additional duties,
Yeah.
Okay.
just with consolidation.
Yep, no, I get it. Does anyone have questions for Ms. Kami regarding the update?
I feel tricky for a chair. Someone has to have a question.
I just asked you one.
That's true. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
You said the only change was to Krista's?
No,
That's
No.
not Krista.
no, it's for attendance / receptionist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
And we
we
have
have,
2 in the
we only
district.
have 2 in the
Across the
district that are going to be taking on additional tasks.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I move that the board approve the updated classified salary schedule for 23-24.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That was Jill with the motion, Libby with the second, and 5 yeses. Okay, that completes our action items. Next up is discussion for policy BE. This is a first read for this policy. It's a policy that we currently have, but because the board voted to change the calendar, meeting on the first and third Wednesdays now, we need to update the policy to reflect that. Currently, it says the second and fourth Wednesday. Are there any questions regarding policy BE?
Well, is this the time that we should discuss changes to things like giving members of the board at least 24 hours notice? Is this the time that we can
That's not
discuss?
on, that's not on this
Okay.
agenda.
So
We're
it's
gonna
just the
discuss
change of the
that
date.
at the
Okay.
retreat, and that will be the time that we can revise it. But because the board's already changed the calendar, we have to have our policy reflect that.
Okay, I understand, but isn't this a discussion item?
It is, but only.
For the date
that-
change.
For the date,
Okay.
for the change of the first and third Wednesday, not
Okay.
for the actual changing of the policy.
Okay, perfect.
But it's
It
on the
will be
retreat.
discussed, okay.
It will be discussed.
Thank you.
Are there any questions regarding changing the first and third Wednesday to reflect our calendar? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. That was just a first read. It'll come back at our next board meeting for approval of that. Next up is the Little Falcons Preschool Program Handbook. Dr. J?
Madam President, members of the board and guests, Ms. Gleason was hopefully going to be here tonight to answer your questions, but her flight was canceled and she's doing everything she can to get back. I can this is a first read anyway, so I can take your questions at this time or anything you want her to review. Or if you prefer to email that to me as well, you could certainly do that, but I'll do my best to answer questions you have.
It had to stay on the agenda because it has to be approved at our next meeting because they'll be starting school before any other meetings, so.
So I'll take questions and write down things that we can bring back to you.
We can also submit questions just to Leah
Sure.
directly
Yeah,
if we need
absolutely.
to. Okay.
Just copy Krista on that as well. I think that helps.
Are there any questions that you feel that Dr. J can answer, or would you like to just table it, or well, not table it, but move on to the next discussion and email your questions?
I'm happy to move on.
You're the preschool guru, so.
I thought everything went with everything I've seen, except there's a couple punctuation things. Periods and second periods,
Well,
otherwise.
those periods are definitely important, so make sure those get taken care of. That and commas, we don't want you to.
I don't do
grammar.
commas, I don't, it's
So
okay.
just feel free to send those to Leah and Krista, and they'll take care of it, and we'll have it. Any questions you have or concerns, we'll have revised for the next meeting. Okay?
I appreciate the work that's gone into it.
Yes.
Handbooks are never easy. You think you cover everything, and then there's always something.
Very well done.
Okay, then moving on, it's the Four Peaks Building tenant discussion. Kunal, thank you for being patient. Come on up. We'll let you go ahead and speak first.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board, for meeting with me. This was the only way that I could get in front of everybody and talk to you guys together. As you know, we have been a tenant in the Four Peaks Elementary School building for almost 4 years now, I believe. When we first chose to come into the building, we came in, and we still have to this day a very much a picture of partnership. At that time it was with EVIT, and today it's with the Fountain Hills School District. We've tried our best to never really ask for anything unless it was something that was really critical for us that we couldn't take care of ourselves. We feel like your belief in us, or at least EVIT's belief in us in the beginning, your continued belief in us has helped us to invest what we can back into the community and do the things we've done. In the last 4 years, we have created employment opportunities. We've created job opportunities. We've hired local kids that actually came through the Fountain Hills educational system. We work extensively with the autistic community and children on the neurodiverse spectrum with organizations like SARC. And the only reason I bring this up is because I feel like we have been a positive member to the community and had a positive impact so far with what we're doing. Obviously, we found out very recently at the last meeting I was at that there's a vote that the school building can now be sold or exchanged or whatever. And that came as a kind of a shock to us, obviously. We came into this partnership always thinking of longevity, having a place that we could kind of plant our roots and establish our business and continue to do the work we've done. Just to be very open with you, for us to pack up everything that we have invested in that space and to move out in a matter of 5 months would be very, very difficult for us. We have put in quite a bit into that building that's hard for us to just uproot ourselves and uproot our employees and leave within 5 months. We understand that, there is a vote and anything can happen with that building. It's been kind of cleared that way. I'm really not here to talk about anything in the past at all. I'm here to talk about the present and the future for us and for the community and our future in that building. And simply, all I'm asking really is that our lease will expire at the end of this year. That's as far as our lease runs. And as I said, for us to uproot ourselves and our employees and just to move out in 5 months would be very difficult. All we're asking for is a little bit of maybe knowledge of stability or knowledge that we have time to prepare ourselves. So really all I'm asking here today is to be able to get approval to extend our lease in that building, say for another 12 months or even more preferably, but at least another 12 months from our existing lease so that we have enough time to properly prepare to uproot ourselves and leave the building and move out of the building. That was not our intention when we came in there. We have always had the intention of being there as long-term tenants in that building and like I said, establishing our business there. We always saw it as a beautiful footprint to continue to expand and grow, and that's why we have invested the things we have into that building, not just money-wise, but time-wise and what we do with the community. So really that's my only request to you is that we feel that it would be fair for us to at least have enough time to prepare ourselves to be able to basically uproot our entire business and find a new place to go, find investment capital to be able to do that. It's not an easy thing for a business. And us having just 5 months and knowing that we have to uproot ourselves in 5 months, it would be very damaging for our company. And I don't know if we would survive if we have to leave in 5 months. So our request is just an extension of the lease, preferably 12 months or more from what we have. And then if something is to happen to the building, to have at least 6 months knowledge or 6 months awareness that we have to vacate in 6 months and this is what's going on. So at least we're not left as a last minute thing, that we have time to prepare ourselves.
I just want to clarify a couple of things. One, yes, the board has voted to put the sale or exchange on the ballot. So we won't know until November's election if the voters have even approved that.
Okay.
So there's no, at this time, we're not able to go to a developer or put it up for sale. We don't have the authorization from the community at this time. So that'll happen in November. I do want to point out, and you mentioned it, Fountain Hills didn't sign your original lease. And so while I appreciate the fact that you looked at it as a partnership, we looked at that same partnership with EVIT. But unfortunately, just like you, EVIT pulled out, and we were left then to grandfather everybody in and kind of be landlords that we never looked at being, because I was on the board at the time. And we thought that our partnership with EVIT would be very long as well,
sure.
and it didn't work
Sure.
out. So those are just two things that, while I appreciate your position, unfortunately, we were put in a terrible position when EVIT pulled out on us because, they had done all of the maintenance on that building. When they took it on, they basically paid for, the landscaping, the electricity, things
Yeah.
like that.
When exactly did EVIT leave?
So they left 2019.
That was a little later.
Was it
I
later?
was
Was
still
it
2 years
principal.
ago.
It was
2 years ago?
2021.
Okay,
Okay.
2021.
The reason
So-
I asked that is because although our lease was with EVIT, we've always had that mindset, even when I communicate with Dr. J, it's always been sort of that mindset of, even until very recently, we've received letters that say, whatever you may read in the paper, whatever you may read, we want to work with you to make sure you are, treated correctly and stuff. I've received personal letters from Dr. J stating that. And so that's why maybe on paper it wasn't, but our feeling was sort of that it is a continued partnership.
And I
So,
understand that.
Let me jump
Go
in.
ahead.
So we have wrote letters like that. So, because I feel that for you. And the last thing we want to do is, have someone, have just a small amount of time to make really life-changing decisions. So what I shared in the letters is that we want to see what happens in the election, but just because that, even if that election passes, doesn't mean we have to make a decision right away. It's going to take a while for anyone, first of all, to make a proposal, go through that process. And so I've stated in the letter that I would like to do everything I can to help any of the business in there relocate and help them have the time to do that. So I do stand by that the best that I can. I don't know what the future is going to hold, but I do know that would be my hope, is that we would be able to do that for our tenants.
And I appreciate that sentiment, and whereas in the past we were really thinking of this as a really long-term thing, now it's become clear that we will probably have to have some alternate options for ourselves, and we will have to look to find a new facility, but the 5 months would be very difficult for us to. So really all we're asking for is just an extension of that so that we can properly prepare. As you said, it would be a life-changing
Yeah, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
With what you said and how you'd like to help the tenants, are you then on board with extending the lease for a year? Or
What I
are your
have to do
thoughts?
is I have to still run it through finance and attorneys and all that, but my thought is that, yes, everyone's lease is coming up, and our hope is that we can work something out with our tenants to extend it, but not extend it to a point that might hinder possibly a sale or something like that. So, like I said, I don't have anything concrete at this time. We've had a lot going on with consolidation, but I can say that the last thing I would want to do is go to them and say, hey, you got a month to get, we don't want to do that either.
And that's all. And that's all we're trying to just
So we
avoid.
appreciate that. So what we'll work on is as these leases come due, of how do we want to move forward with them. But I'm going to need more time on that.
Do all the leases currently expire
I believe they all do.
So do you have a time frame that the business owners in Four Peaks can anticipate an answer as to whether their lease would be extended and how long?
Yeah, I would say that I would hope that we could probably get some to early August, that we get school off and running. I could put more time into that once I have kids in the classrooms.
And our intention obviously would be, to do it less than 1 year out to be able to leave and stuff. But that year at least gives us the mental stability, the physical stability to be able to put all that together.
Well, I mean, I feel really comfortable with what you said about 6 months. You need at least
To let
6
us
months
know,
of
yeah,
notice.
to give us 6 months notice. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the last thing I want to do is have a bunch of people not have jobs or not be able to do it. I get it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, though, like Ms. Reed shared, we inherited this, and financially, it's just hasn't panned out like we'd hoped it would. And so every dollar spent over there goes away from our kids and our classrooms. So I will make a commitment to work on this with my team and get something to you guys. But my intent in my mind and the letters I sent would be, 6 months at a minimum was what I was thinking in my mind.
Okay.
Because I know it's a lot of work and you put a lot of money into it.
Yeah, we're a little bit of a different scenario than the other tenants
I
there.
gotcha.
We put in quite a bit into
Yeah.
there, so for us to uproot ourselves, it's not as easy as just, picking up and leaving.
Totally understand. So yes, I can, I'll make it, how about August 15th by the latest?
Okay.
Why don't we say
To-
September 1st?
September 1st.
And
Okay,
and
give
what
me
is
a little
September
bit.
1st, just to basically have clarity on the future?
Yes, that he can discuss it with finance.
I'm sorry.
Dana's waving.
Got my realtor hat on now. We don't know if anybody's gonna want that property, first of all, right? If you could buy it, obviously, when the time came, if you wanted to. But more importantly, in the meantime, would you be interested in a triple net lease? You know what that is?
No, explain.
Means that, the rent would be almost nothing, but you're responsible for all the costs of maintenance.
Oh, right.
Now, there's some issues with electricity because there's one meter and all that, but that's easy to take care of. It's done all the time, right?
Yeah. The way it stands right now, for the most part, we do quite a bit on our own anyway. It's just larger things that we cannot, for example, the AC unit, right? It'd be hard for us to go in on an older unit and then replace it or something
Well,
ourselves.
and that's hard for us too,
Yeah.
but that might be a compromise. I mean, wherever you go, you're gonna have to have air conditioning, right? So I think negotiating a triple net lease with maybe some CAM charges, again, I got my realtor hat on, so I'm not trying to, but there are people that know how to put those together with both parties.
I mean, for us, we just need time to prepare ourselves to leave.
Well, and that would give it to you.
That's what we're
And
looking
you
for.
could do it for 2 years.
We can discuss that. I mean, honestly, for us, again, our situation is we have put in
Sure.
the money into investing into the building for a lower rent. That was the calculation
Well,
that we had come up with.
we could go with no rent.
Right.
But you're responsible for the power and it's triple net because that's
Are you saying that
everything
you're
except
responsible
taxes.
for everybody's power that's over there? Because there's
No,
other renters.
it's easy to split power.
Does
It-
the
it-
AC unit only service their
No,
rooms?
there's numerous AC units on that.
Yes, it does only service our area. There's 2 or 3 different units,
Yeah.
I think.
But there's numerous air conditioning.
So-
So
Well,
dividing
and I
this
think-
up is not a hard thing, just to say.
And I think what Dana's saying is the way I understand it is your rent of $720 a month, it does not include utilities, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that, like I said, I'm open to, although we're looking to sell and do all that, we also, again, I feel like we have an obligation to work with our tenants who have been there and do that. So that has always been my intent and public now, that we will continue to do that. I don't know how far out we can go, but I will work with you guys and I will make it a goal by September 1st to have something out to all of our renters.
Some clarity.
And we are open to the idea of if, I mean, however we can help. I mean, I don't know, like I've said along these ways, it's just something really unique here that most districts don't have, right? Is this kind of thing, and in a small district with very few administrators, very few maintenance people, it is a strain on us. So, but we can certainly take your information and do our best to try to meet your needs, but that is our goal,
Okay.
okay?
Well, and wouldn't we want to wait to know what the outcome of the election is before we make a decision? Are we going to kick our tenants out either way, whether the election passes or not?
Yeah.
Eventually, we have to do something with that building because the amount of rent is not covering the expenses. So either then if we keep tenants in there, the rent's gonna have to go
He
up.
might not like this answer, but my answer to that would be to renegotiate and run
Well,
a
and
better
that's-
business.
That's why I
You
said
have
triple
emails
net
that,
is covered.
that we tried to renegotiate and we got no. So
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that the rent is too low for the amount of space and to cover the expenses. So,
And
yeah.
I think also if you, and this is just me personally saying this, but if you were to expect a higher, more close to market level
We'd have to do
rent,
more work and
yeah,
give a better
it's
product, for
it's
sure.
It's a
We-
chicken or egg thing too, right?
To be honest, it
tenants
was-
will expect certain things at those
Yes,
prices.
absolutely. And to be honest, it was poorly run and it wasn't done very well. And you've stayed for a long time and you guys have done a lot of work there and you've done a lot
Yeah,
to be
we've
proud of.
always
so.
done it ourselves. The only time we've ever asked for anything is like the air conditioning unit, where that's just out of our realm and even this recently, we've had our own techs come in and look at the AC unit, paid for that all out of pocket. And it was told to us that it was the older equipment, and so that's what got fixed eventually. I think your guys fixed it, but
Yes.
and that put us out for 1 month out of our production rooms. We couldn't use that room for 1 month while we went back and forth on the AC. So those are the kind of things where like, we've taken
Yeah, if
care
you're
of
paying for-
everything. We've
yeah.
done pesticide stuff, we've done daily maintenance, we've done cleaning, we've done electrical stuff in there, we've done plumbing stuff in there. It's just certain things like AC and stuff we really need your help with because it's not our equipment. So
Right. So the election will tell a lot, but
Okay.
like Dr. J said, even if the election passes in November, on December 1st, somebody's not gonna be like, here,
Yeah,
we're
that's-
buying, you move.
And I
So-
appreciate the sentiment, because that's all we really wanted is, for us, it's shaken us up this last month or a month and a half, not knowing, right? So we don't know that in December 31st, are we gonna have to just walk out? And if that's the case, we really have to scramble. So that's the only reason I'm asking, is that if we could have a little bit more time extended, that it'll help get us prepared to make those changes.
And
So
I
we
think
have
that's
no
reasonable.
plans at this time that I'm aware of from anybody to, on December 31st, say everyone's out. So no, it's just renegotiating what those contracts look like, what the length of them is, and those types of things is what I just got to work through.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Thanks for seeing me.
Thank you very much. Thank you for waiting.
One last thing, are we able to offer him a good faith type contract where we say, you know, should the election pass and we plan to sell, we will give you at least 6 months notice? Are we able to do
I
that?
thought I just did.
That's what he's.
Okay, and, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, future action, if there's something you'd like to see on a future agenda, please contact Krista or Dr. J. As we said, there will be some, the discussion regarding board packets will be on the retreat, so that's already part of that. We'll also be going over board goals that night, so if you want to start thinking about what your goal would be for the board, that would be great too.
I might be a little late because we're already in school.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Oh, yeah, on July 28th, you and that funky calendar, that's why.
26.
It's a wonderful
26.
calendar.
26.
Everybody
26.
except us uses it.
Yeah.
Not everybody, Dana.
Yes, it is. Everybody in East Valley.
But not up here. You're in the North Valley now. So on July 26th, Wednesday, July 26th, we'll be clear about that. The board retreat, 4:00. And then the next meeting after that will be Wednesday, August 2nd, which will be a business meeting. And then the next day, the kids start school. That's crazy.
Crazy.
All right, with that,
I move we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, nobody leave. You have to sign the budget.
I already did.
Didn't we sign it?
Well, not all of us. No, you didn't sign it either.
What do we have?